Chapter 76. After Harry got the Sorcerer's Stone, he immediately asked the little necromancers to leave the room. They could see that the stone wall in front of them was constantly shaking, as well as various explosions coming from that side, all of which told them how fierce the battle between Yeting and Professor Quirrell was. Harry hoped to leave here as soon as possible. He was not sure whether Yeting could defeat Professor Quirrell. In their view, although Yeting is very strong, he is just a small necromancer and will not be Professor Quirrell's opponent, although Yeting has a record of defeating fire dragons and saving unicorns. They felt that if they could leave here quickly and call the professors, they might be able to help Yeting. However, when they ran to the door, the wall created by Yeting through shape-shifting exploded. The powerful explosion shook them to the ground. As the smoke and dust continued to disperse, the two confronting figures gradually became clear. Although the shorter one's clothes were a bit messy, he generally had a calm posture. This was their friend Yeting. And his opponent, Professor Quirrell, was much more embarrassed. His clothes were in tatters, and there were many burnt spots all over his body. His left hand was twisted unnaturally, it must have been broken. Although it was quite miserable, he still gritted his teeth and persisted, casting a sinister look at Yeting. Just then, he saw the Sorcerer's Stone in Harry's hand. "Give it to me," he screamed, "give me what you have in your hand." Being targeted by Professor Quirrell, Harry was extremely nervous. "I don't know what you're talking about." He put his hands behind his back and denied it. At this time, a sharp voice spoke, and the voice was completely unlike Professor Quirrell himself. "Let me come and talk to him, face to face." "Master, your physical strength has not recovered yet," Professor Quirrell said nervously. "I still have this little strength." This strange scene stunned the little necromancers. They watched Quirrell raise his hand and take off the scarf on his head. "How is this going?" The big scarf fell down, and Quirrell's exposed head looked surprisingly small. Then, he slowly turned around. Harry wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Where the back of Quirrell's head should have been, there was a face. Harry had never seen such a hideous and terrifying face. The face was as white as chalk, with glowing red eyes, and underneath were two slender nostrils like snakes. "Harry Potter!" he whispered. Harry wanted to step back, but his legs wouldn't obey him. Suddenly, a hand held him firmly. Yeting came up from behind him and explained, "This is Voldemort now. Ever since he was killed by you, he has been in this half-dead state. He has to be parasitic on other people's bodies. Isn't it disgusting?" "Definitely, what's even more disgusting is that sometimes, because he can't find a suitable parasite, he has to parasitize on animals." The words gave Harry a shiver. The face spoke to Harry, "Look what I've become. All that's left is shadow and vapor. I can only have form when I share a body with someone else. But there are always people who are willing to let me into their hearts and minds. Once I get the elixir, I will be able to recreate a body of my own. Okay, why don't you give me the Philosopher's Stone in your hand?" As he spoke, he moved in Harry's direction, and by the end he was basically flying away. "Run, Harry, run towards the door." Yeting pushed Harry away and cast a barrier spell on Voldemort, but the opponent suddenly turned into black smoke and rose into the sky, bypassing the obstacle. Immediately afterwards, he sprayed a black fire at Yeting and forced Yeting back. Taking advantage of this time, the little necromancers scattered and ran away. Yeting waved his wand and shot several red lights in succession to cover them. But he left out Harry Potter, intentionally or unintentionally. Voldemort indeed saw the flaw, so he turned into black smoke and came to Harry's side. "I've got you." He pointed his wand at Harry and laughed wildly, "Now you're in my hands." With Voldemort pointing his wand at him, Harry felt as if he was tightly entangled in a devil's net, unable to move at all. At this time, even Yeting was on guard. He could only point his wand at Voldemort threateningly. The scene suddenly came to a standstill. "Give me the Philosopher's Stone," Voldemort said fiercely, "I have always admired courage." "Yes, child, your parents were very brave back then. I will kill you first." "Father, he would rather die than give in and fight me bravely." "Your mother actually doesn't have to die. She is trying her best to protect you." "Well, give me the magic stone, don't let your mother commit suicide, I will die for you." "No. Don't even think about it." Harry refused firmly. On the other side, Yeting sneered at Voldemort, "You ugly monster, did parasitism on an animal make your brain stupid?" How can you be sure that the Sorcerer's Stone is in Harry's body? 0, please give me flowers. What did you say? Voldemort turned his head abruptly, not sure if the position of his face counted as turning back, and asked in shock, where is the Philosopher's Stone? Definitely with the safest person, Yeting sneered and took out the bright red stone from his pocket, which was the magic stone. Everyone else is stunned? When was the magic stone transferred to Yeting? Suddenly, Voldemort remembered the time when he blew open the wall. It was at that time that Yeting had a brief contact with Harry. However, how can this stump the Dark Lord? He pointed his wand at Harry again and smiled cruelly. Okay. The farce is over. He looked at Yeting like a poisonous snake. I admit that you are more skilled, but so what? Now, hand over the magic stone to me. Otherwise, this child will die here because of you, and when the time comes, you will be called a murderer, and you will feel uneasy for the rest of your life. Don't care about me. Harry shook his head nervously at Yeting. Don't give him the magic stone. Shut up, Harry Potter. Voldemort waved his hand, and a piece of dirty cloth was stuffed into Harry's mouth. Then, he turned to Yeting. Then, make your choice, Mudblood. Yeting pretended to be struggling, then gritted his teeth and said, you win. Dark Lord. He picked up the Philosopher's Stone and prepared to throw it to Voldemort, but instead threw it in another direction, the direction of the Mirror of East. Go find this damn stone in the magic mirror yourself. No. That was his hope of rebuilding his body. Voldemort screamed and flew toward the Sorcerer's Stone. But he was still one step late. He could only watch helplessly as the Philosopher's Stone touched the Mirror of East, and then it bounced away and fell to the ground. Yeting simply does not have the ability to return the magic stone to the Mirror of East. He is lying. At that moment, the anger of being fooled and the surprise of regaining the Philosopher's Stone made Voldemort tremble all over. He reached out excitedly to the Philosopher's Stone. However, the next second, he was engulfed by a black flame. He didn't even say his last words, and was burned to death by the flames. The moment the magic stone was thrown, Yeting thought about everything. In order to kill him in one go, he even sacrificed the magic stone and burned everything, including Quirrell, the magic stone and the Mirror of East. Devoured completely. Chapter 77. As the black fire swallowed up the Philosopher's Stone, Quirrell and his conspiracy, the incident related to the Philosopher's Stone ended. In the flames, the little necromancers seemed to see Voldemort's broken soul. He screamed and escaped from the fire, but the terrible flames obviously caused him great harm. At this time, Dumbledore finally arrived. He happened to catch this scene and watched Voldemort's broken soul leave. This made him frown deeply. Troubled times are coming. Then, he turned to his 5 students. At the moment, he had to face the fact before him. It was these students in front of them who broke into the level where the Philosopher's Stone was stored and fought against Professor Quirrell and Voldemort who possessed him. During the battle, in order to save his companions and eliminate Voldemort, one of the students had to use a strong fire to kill Quirrell. Destroyed together with the magic stone. Luo has the property of burning magic power, so once an 870 pure magic power creation like the Philosopher's Stone encounters Luo, it will end up being burned to nothing. After getting this fact from everyone, Dumbledore had to believe that he had lost the Philosopher's Stone forever. But he didn't blame Yeting, because he really had to do it. After all, Harry was still in Voldemort's hands at that time. In order to prevent Voldemort from resurrecting again, it can be said that it was the best choice Yeting could make at that time to destroy Quirrell, who was possessed by Voldemort, and the Philosopher's Stone. Now, Voldemort has to lie dormant again, lingering to plan the next conspiracy. As the greatest contemporary white martial arts master, he must also seize the time to prepare for the Dark Lord's resurrection in advance. After leaving the principal's office, all the little necromancers involved in this line of work were extremely tired. In order to quickly get the Philosopher's Stone, they set out in the early morning and stayed up all night. In the process of passing various levels and finally confronting Professor Quirrell and Voldemort, both their physical strength and energy were completely exhausted. So they fell asleep immediately after returning to the dormitory. Before Yeting went to bed, he did not forget to hide the magic stone in his pocket in a box locked with magic. That's right, the magic stone was not really destroyed in the previous battle. In fact, Yeting wanted to get the Philosopher's Stone a long time ago, but like Quirrell, he couldn't take it out of the Mirror of East, and he didn't want to be blamed by Deng for taking the Philosopher's Stone. Bullseye, He hasn't finished reading the Hogwarts books yet. Therefore, he designed this plan at the beginning of the school year. At that time, Hermione proposed to him that she wanted to explore the room where the three-headed dog was, but he was temporarily delayed. He made up his mind to launch this plan at the end of the semester, because only then would Harry be able to fight against Voldemort and take the magic stone out of the Mirror of East. Only then will he have an opportunity. For this plan, he also specially prepared a fake magic stone in advance. After reviewing the information, Yeting knew that the magic stone was a degraded version of the Philosopher's Stone and was entirely composed of magic power. This means that Li Huo can burn it completely without leaving any residue. So, he chose to turn a diamond into a fake magic stone. As we all know, diamonds are composed entirely of carbon and are quite pure with no impurities. When diamonds are ignited, they burn completely into carbon dioxide. This means that after the fake magic stone is burned by the fire and reveals its original shape, it will be burned like the real magic stone until nothing is left. Then, he learned the fierce fire curse and the corresponding solution to the curse in the Forbidden Book area. After the final exam, he was ready. He planned to spy on Harry Potter, find out what day he went to get the Sorcerer's Stone, and then pretend that he happened to meet up with friends on the same day to explore the corridors of the 4th floor and trapdoor. When that time comes, he will either follow Harry or pretend to meet them by chance. In any case, he will find a way to enter the last room with Harry Potter and face Professor Quirrell. As a result, the plan failed to keep up with the change. Yeting took Hermione and Zhang Qiu to visit Laurie in the Forbidden Forest, and happened to meet Harry and Ron on the way back. When Harry invited him to participate in the operation, he was actually quite surprised, because no one expected that the plan would go so smoothly. In this way, the chance of him being suspected by Dumbledore would be even lower. Everything went according to his plan. Since Quirrell was injured in the battle in the Forbidden Forest, his combat effectiveness was reduced. Therefore, when Yeting faced off against Quirrell in the last room, he completely mastered the rhythm of the battle, allowing him to the situation unknowingly developed in the direction he wanted. When Harry found the Philosopher's Stone, he deliberately exposed a flaw and let Professor Quirrell break the wall and discover all this. Due to Professor Quirrell's threat, when he asked Harry to hand over the Philosopher's Stone to him, Harry readily agreed. In the following battle, he deliberately exposed his flaws and allowed Professor Quirrell to capture Harry. Due to his special feelings for Harry, Voldemort would not kill Cha-Yi immediately. He even suspected that Voldemort had not killed him. Harry's ability. But since the Sorcerer's Stone has been transferred to Yeting, with Voldemort's character, he will definitely get the Sorcerer's Stone by threatening Harry's life. This creates a situation where the Philosopher's Stone has to be sacrificed, otherwise Voldemort cannot be defeated and Harry Potter can be saved at the same time. In this case, he had reason to destroy the fake magic stone with fire in front of everyone, and then steal the real magic stone. Fortunately, the entire plan was executed perfectly according to his ideas. He successfully obtained the Philosopher's Stone, and Dumbledore did not doubt him. Soon, word of their feat spread throughout Hogwarts. Everyone looked at them with admiration. Many people gathered around them and asked questions, trying to understand what happened at that time. And Senior Pinello quickly found Yeting. Definitely, the reason why she came to Yeting was not just to satisfy her curiosity. I've heard all this. In the corner of the common room, Pinello lowered his head and said quietly to Yeting, "It's a pity that I wasn't with you at that time, otherwise I could have been with you fighting side by side. The situation was very dangerous." Yeting reminded, but Pinello immediately interrupted him. "I know." She looked at Yeting with a complicated expression. "I definitely know that the situation is very dangerous. You have to face a professor alone, and he is also possessed by a mysterious man. How can the situation not be dangerous?" As he spoke, Pinello began to get a little excited, obviously caught up in his own emotions. "I can even believe that picture. A first-grade necromancer with 4 companions, you have to face such a 2.9 powerful necromancer opponent, but your companions are not very reliable. 2 of the boys are both Gryffindor's reckless men. The 2 girls, Hermione and Zhang Qiu, can't actually help you. You have to stand up on your own. Go out and protect your companions." At this point, her eye circles were already red, as if she was moved by the imaginary Yeting. Seeing her like this, Yeting himself blushed a little. He was just doing it for the magic stone, but in the eyes of the girl in front of him, he was so great. He sighed in his heart and decided secretly that he should be more careful when doing things in the future, so as not to damage his glorious image in the hearts of others. After a while, Pinello came out of her emotions. She solemnly asked Yeting, "Next time if something happens, remember to take me with you." Yeting could only nod his head repeatedly. P.S. There are only so many in the early morning, continue during the day. Chapter 78. The two chatted for a while. Pinello seemed a little absent-minded, and suddenly she asked casually, pretending to be casual, "Do you know why Percy Weasley asked me to go there?" It was because of this that Penelope missed seeing Laurie the unicorn, and thus missed the whole thing. Yeting shook his head and said he didn't know. Pinello gave him a complicated look and said, "He confessed his longing for me and wanted me to be his girlfriend." Oh. Yeting nodded. This matter also existed in the original work. Pinello agreed at that time, but he should refuse this time. Seeing Yeting's lack of reaction, Pinello frowned and asked manually, "What do you think I answered?" Yeting shook his head again. "I refused." After saying that, Pinello glanced at Yeting expectantly. Oh. Still the answer. This made even the always gentle senior sister angry. She asked Ye014 loudly, "Is this how you react?" Yeting glanced at her and felt a little hesitation in his heart. Although he was good enough in this life and was a man loved by everyone, but he had never been in a relationship before and it was okay to tease a little Lolita. Really face to face. I still seem a little timid when it comes to such emotional issues. He had no choice but to encourage himself in his heart. Who am I? I am a time traveler, the chosen one, the future god of Dharma, a man who was born to have a harem. How could I give up because of some emotional problems? Finally, he changed his mind, stepped forward, and pushed Pinello into the corner. The senior sister was startled by this action, but she still looked at him expectantly. Yeting met her eyes, kissed her on the lips, and said, "This is your reward." Then he hurried away. Looking at Yeting's back, Pinello showed a gentle smile on his lips. After that, the last game of the Quidditch Cup began, between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. Since Harry was not injured during the fight against Quirrell like in the original book, he successfully participated in the game standing on the opposite side of the friend who fought side by side a few days ago. In the previous games, Gryffindor and Ravenclaw both won 2 games in a row, but the winner of the Quidditch Cup is not the team with the most wins, but the team with the highest cumulative score. In this regard, Ravenclaw has a big advantage. They have scored a total of 510 points in the previous 2 games, while Gryffindor's total points are much lower, and their point difference is far more than 100 points. 50 points. This also means that in addition to catching the golden snitch first, the Gryffindor team must first score through the quaffle to open a certain point difference with their opponents. However, the Ravenclaw standing opposite them now has a talented player, Yeting, and Yeting also has a secret weapon, the flying broomstick and the sun wheel. During the competition, everyone was amazed and frightened by Rylun's first appearance. Riding this broomstick that was ahead of his time, Yeting almost defeated Gryffindor with only 10 people. Unlucky Gryffindor, even if Harry Potter was safe and sound and participated in the game this time, he could not avoid the biggest defeat in history. When Hogwarts' end-of-year banquet began, the Great Hall was decorated in the blue and bronze colors of Ravenclaw to celebrate their victory in the House Cup, giving Slytherin 6 consecutive years. Years of winning streak, perhaps this is also the beginning of their record. A huge banner with a Ravenclaw eagle hanging on the wall behind the guest of honor seat. Dumbledore finally arrived at the scene, and after that, the noise in the auditorium gradually subsided. "Another year has passed," said Dumbledore cheerfully. "Before you enjoy these delicious delicacies, I must trouble you all to listen to an old man's cliché. What a wonderful year it has been! It must be in your little minds. They are all richer than in the past. There is a whole summer vacation waiting for you, which allows you to digest those things and free up your mind before the start of the next semester. Now, as far as I know, we must first conduct the Academy Cup award ceremony. The specific scores of each academy are as follows: 4th place, Gryffindor, 312 points, 3rd place, Hufflepuff, 352 points, Slytherin 372 points, Slytherin 586 points. The Ravenclaw table erupted in a thunderous roar of cheers and stamping of feet. "Yes, yes, the performance is good," Dumbledore said. "However, the recent events must also be taken into account." The auditorium became very quiet, and the Ravenclaw smiles also softened. Yeting cast a mocking look at Dumbledore. In the original book, Gryffindor's score was also so low, but Dumbledore added a total of 1 to the Savior's group and Neville due to the Sorcerer's Stone incident. 170 points, surpassing Slytherin, who won the Academy Cup at the time. No wonder some people say that although Dumbledore was a good principal, he was quite partial. He was too partial to Gryffindor House, where he was born. But this time, Ravenclaw had Yeting and Hermione, which led to them winning the Academy Cup and opening up a wider gap with Gryffindor. Moreover, in this Philosopher's Stone incident, Ravenclaw surpassed Gryffindor by 377 in terms of number of participants and contribution, so even with extra points, Ravenclaw might not lose. This time, he wanted to see how this biased old man would help Gryffindor. The result was as he expected. Dumbledore did not add points based on contribution as in the original work, but added 50 points to each person involved in the incident based on head count, and then added 10 points to Neville Longbottom. This is really partiality. Now the Gryffindors were happy. They had surpassed their rival Slytherin. When Snape looked at Professor McGonagall, he looked quite embarrassed, while Professor Flitwick happily hummed a tune. The college is a full 314 points ahead of the second place. The next day, the results of the final exam were also announced. Yeting and Hermione both tied for first place with perfect scores. Everyone definitely knew that the reason why Hermione tied with Yeting was because the total score of the exam was only that high. After that, the semester finally ended, and the little necromancers took the train to platform 9 3/4. Yeting waved goodbye to the 3 girls on the platform. "I will find a new address this holiday," he said to them. "I will write to you at that time to tell you the new address, and then we can exchange letters. Definitely, you can come and play with me at that time." Chapter 79. After returning to Wu's orphanage from Hogwarts, Yeting obviously felt a little uncomfortable. That's definitely true. At Hogwarts, he can hide in the room of requirement and do whatever research he wants. When he's bored, he can fly freely in the sky on the sun disk. Circle and enjoy the wind-like feeling. Since he helped the Centaur tribe, he has another pastime, which is visiting the Forbidden Forest. With the horseman as his guide, the Forbidden Forest is like his back garden, allowing him to wander and collect at will. But now, he had to stay in a small room. His daily entertainment was reading books, and he couldn't even cast magic, although he had tricked the Aurors at the airport last time. But that was just a special situation. Now he doesn't dare to openly use magic here in Wu's orphanage, otherwise he may be expelled from school. After all, he is currently not powerful enough to fight against the entire Ministry of Magic. But then again, if he was strong enough to ignore the rules of the Ministry of Magic, why would he care about being chased? In short, Yeting, who felt aggrieved, finally couldn't bear it anymore. He found Mrs. Gary and got permission to live alone from her. It was definitely inevitable to use some magical means such as spiritual darkness, but since he didn't use a magic wand, so Trace Silk cannot detect this. Then, he could finally act alone. However, his first priority was not to find a new place to live, but to seek investment. The most famous event that occurred in the financial market in 1992 was the Pound Crisis. In this incident, financial speculators led by Soros seized the opportunity of the uncoordinated currency exchange rates among European countries and shorted the pound, thus causing a huge loss. Make a fortune. This incident happened in September 1992, but now Soros has begun to make plans, so after Yeting left Wu's orphanage, he immediately flew to the United States and invested all his wealth in Soros's hedge fund. It is inevitable to use magic means. Otherwise, how could hundreds of millions of hedge funds allow an account with only a few dollars to join? After that, Yeting began to prepare his new home. He planned to build the new home in a place where necromancers live together. In these places, because there are many necromancers living in them and they are relatively concentrated, it is impossible to use trace wire to detect whether the small necromancers are used. Magic. This gave Yeting the opportunity to bypass the Ministry of Magic's regulations and use magic outside of school. Now he has 2 preferred places. The first is Hogsmeade in Scotland, which is a relatively prosperous necromancer town and is close to Hogwarts. The other choice is Ottery in Devonshire, England. St. Catchpole village is just a small village, not prosperous, but there are many acquaintances of Yeting living there, such as the Weasley family, the Lovegood family and the Diggory family. Both locations are very good, which made Yeting struggle for a long time. The former is prosperous, convenient for shopping, and you can go back to Hogwarts at any time, just like a room in a school district. The latter is closer to acquaintances and can drop by when he is bored. He is very interested in George and Fred of the Weasley family, Diggory of the Godric family, and Luna of the Lovegood family. He struggled with this for a day. Suddenly, he recalled what happened to Harry during the summer vacation. The Weasley twins and Ron rode in a flying car to take Harry from the Dursleys' house. Potter took it. Car. Yeting immediately had inspiration. Why not buy an RV and use it as your own home? The Necromancer will use a traceless expansion spell, which can expand a limited space without the change being visible from the outside. Necromancers use this spell extensively on their storage supplies and houses. And Yeting is very good at this spell. He originally has a very strong spatial ability and has always been good at learning space magic. Although the larger the space, the more difficult it is to use the traceless expansion spell, but with his level, the space of an RV can be expanded into a luxury villa. In this way, he can choose where to live at will. He will live in the village of Ottery Catchpole during the holidays, and move to Hogsmeade after school starts. He can even drive this car wherever he wants to travel in the future. Car. He could even go one step further and buy a bus himself and then convert it into a RV. Anyway, one of the three basic types of RVs is a bus or RV. By the way, the other two types are truck-type RVs and trailer-type RVs. He did what he said and immediately tried every means to disguise his identity and bought a double-decker bus. This is a Volvo Olympian double-decker bus from the Swedish Volvo company. It is the latest double-decker bus produced by Volvo's Scottish factory in 1992. However, it was intercepted by Yeting as soon as it left the factory. This car is 12 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, and 4.4 meters high. The engine is not important, it can be modified with magic anyway. Next, he will look for a place to modify the bus. Since magic is required, he must find a necromancer colony to modify it to avoid being discovered by the Ministry of Magic. In Yeting's opinion, the best place is St. Catchpole village, because not only are there many necromancer families living there, but you can also find a ready-made helper. That was the twins and Ron's father, Arthur Weasley. Arthur Weasley worked in the Ministry of Magic's office for the prohibition of the misuse of Muggle articles, but he loved anything Muggle-related and even wrote the Muggle Protection Act. And he is also extremely interested in Muggle technology. He would buy Muggle objects, take them apart in the shed and study them, trying to figure out how they worked, and he would also cast magic on them. The Ford that the twins and Ron drove to pick up Harry was his masterpiece. He is interested in Muggle items, has experience in modifying Muggle vehicles, is friendly and easygoing, and can be considered an acquaintance of Li Wangzhao. Is there a more perfect helper than him? Thinking of this, he immediately wrote a letter to the twins, asking them to convey their request to Mr. Arthur Weasley. Compared to Ron, Yeting had a better relationship with the twins. When they were at Hogwarts, the two often asked Yeting for advice on alchemy, and Yeting also gave them a lot of suggestions on their homemade prank props. Soon, Yeting received a reply. The person who wrote the reply was not the twins, but Mr. Weasley. This letter was quite enthusiastic. In the letter, Mr. Weasley expressed that he had admired Yeting for a long time and praised Yeting's behavior at Hogwarts. Faced with Yeting's idea of converting a bus into a house, Mr. Weasley expressed great interest and took the initiative to join the transformation work. At the end of the letter, he warmly invited Yeting to visit the Burrow, which was the name of the Weasley family, and also included the address of Street Catchpole Village. Chapter 80. After arriving at St. Catchpole Village, Yeting was warmly welcomed by the Weasley family. The twins hugged him enthusiastically, and then looked at his double-decker bus. How cool! You actually want to build your home in the car. How did you come up with this idea? They also handed him a piece of toffee, but Yeting refused their kindness. The smell of burping potion is almost wafting out of this piece of candy. Yeting glanced at it with disgust. Whose bad idea is this? It was George's idea. It was Fred's idea. The twins immediately put the blame on each other. Ron just shook hands with him and seemed rather reserved. His relationship with Yeting was average, but after experiencing the Sorcerer's Stone incident, he began to respect Yeting. Mr. Weasley was a thin man, slightly bald, but what little hair he had left was as red as his children's. He was wearing a green robe and looked a little dusty. He rushed back from the Ministry of Magic to greet Yeting. Mrs. Weasley is a plump, kind-faced woman who wears a printed apron and carries a wand in her pocket. When the twins brought Yeting to them, the Weasleys greeted him warmly and gave Yejian 727 10 welcome hugs. Hello, Mr. Yet. Mr. Weasley shook hands with him. I have heard about your deeds. You are actually able to confront the mysterious man's men in the first grade. You are really a genius. I heard that you have been living in a Muggle orphanage in the past. Oh, I shouldn't mention this, but you must know a lot about the Muggle world, right? Okay, Arthur, don't ask these questions as soon as you meet. Mrs. Weasley interrupted him loudly, then turned to Yeting and looked him up and down with a loving look. Although there was no malice in this look, it still made Yeting feel uncomfortable for a while. Could it be because he was the older Obazan? Oh, you are Mr. Ting yet, right? What a handsome young man. Mrs. Weasley nodded with satisfaction. I heard Ron tell a lot about you, and George and Fred also often speaking of you. I have to thank you for protecting Ron when he was at school. I'm glad they made friends like you at school. I heard that you had been living in, well, an orphanage. As she spoke, she wiped the corners of her eyes with her hands. What a good boy. At their warm invitation, Yeting visited the Weasley family's burrow. It seemed to have been a large pigsty made of stone before. Later, some rooms were added here and there, and it sat several stories high. It was crooked and twisted, and it looked like it was built by magic. There are 4 or 5 chimneys on the roof of the red house, and a sign is inserted diagonally in front of the house that reads burrow. Next to the door were some high-top leather boots and a rusty crucible. Several fat brown chickens were pecking in the yard. The Weasley family's garden is very large. It is overgrown with weeds, surrounded by many tangled trees at the base of the wall. Various plants sprout from each flower bed, and there is a large green pond with many frogs in it. This is a simple yet cozy home. Entering the burrow, Yeting also saw 2 other members of the family in the living room. One of them was slightly taller, neatly dressed, with a prefect's badge on his knitted short vest. He was their elder brother, Percy Weasley. Yeting found that Percy looked at him with very complicated eyes, including jealousy and unwillingness. Percy is jealous of you. One of the twins whispered in Yeting's ear. Since I got home, I found that he has been secretly writing letters to someone, but he has never replied. Yes, interjected the other twin, we intercepted Errol, that's the name of our owl, and found that he was writing to Penelope Cravat, L. Avenclaw's beautiful senior. Oh, they were so passionate love letters that I almost got goosebumps, but Senior Pinello never replied. He just had unrequited love. We all know. Having said this, he raised his eyebrows at Yeting. But before he could say anything, the other twin rushed to say, we all know that Pinello is often with you, Ebe. I dare to bet all of George's Zico that she likes you, Percy. No chance at all. You stole my words. George, the first twin said angrily. I'm George. I'm they. With that said, the twins started quarreling with each other again. In response, Yeting could only shake his head helplessly. What is all this? Percy didn't give up even after being rejected by his senior sister. But... he snorted. This guy has absolutely no chance. He looked Percy over. If his appearance is not as good as mine, his ability is not as good as mine, and his family is not as rich as me, will Pinello like him? Another member of the Weasley family is a red-haired little girl, Ginny Weasley, who will also enter Hogwarts this year. When she saw Yeting, she just nodded shyly. In addition, they actually have 2 brothers, but neither of them are at home. The eldest son, Bill, works as a curse breaker at Gringotts Bank, and the second son, Charlie, studies fire dragons in Romania. After having lunch at the Weasley house, the twins took Yeting to their room and asked him for advice on how to perfectly remove the smell of burping potion from candy. Yeting stayed at the Weasley house for a whole day and even stayed for a night, experiencing many daily activities of the Necromancer family, such as clearing the gnomes in the garden. He also saw a ghoul in the attic of the Weasley family. In short, it was indeed a novel and interesting experience. But early the next morning, Yeting was about to start work. The first step was to dismantle the interior of the double-decker bus. Yeting and Arthur spent the whole morning running up and down the bus, and George and Fred also came to help them. To be honest, compared to manual demolition, magic is too convenient. Control spells, floating spells, moving spells, flying spells, shape-shifting spells, etc. are all very practical spells. Mr. Weasley was very interested in the luxurious seats in the bus and moved several of them to his home. The next step is to perform the traceless stretching spell. At this moment, the entire carriage became a stage for Yeting to perform alone. The carriage, which was only a few dozen square meters in file size, was expanded to several hundred square meters in file size by Yeting. The carport, which was less than 2 meters high, was expanded by Yeting to 4 or 5 meters high. In addition, he also cut an opening at the top of the bus, then built a shed on the roof and surrounded it with glass to serve as a garden. His seamless stretching charm stunned the Weasley family. They had never seen such a powerful seamless stretching charm. Other necromancers use traceless expansion spells to expand the file size space in their pockets at most dozens of times, or to expand the file size space in their cars or houses several times. But, who has the ability to expand the space of a bus 100 times? Even Dumbledore couldn't do this. However, Yeting just expanded a double-decker bus into a villa of thousands of square meters in front of them. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley finally understood how far the geniuses at Hogwarts were. Chapter 81. The next step was to decorate and visit the furniture. For this, Yeting had to go to Diagon Alley every day for several days. This time, his way to get to Diagon Alley was to use the Weasley family's fireplace and enter Diagon Alley through the flow method. To be honest, for necromancers who are not used to or not good at apparition, flow powder is indeed a very convenient means of transportation. It is more comfortable and safer than apparition, and it has a fixed flow network, so I just need to say it can be reached by exiting the site, whether the user has been there or not. Instead of having to fully understand the target location like operating. Yeting decided that after his home was renovated, he would also connect the fireplace to the flow network. During the renovation process, Yeting spent a large sum of gold galleons and visited several furniture stores, both Muggle and Necromancer stores, before he bought furniture that he was satisfied with. If he was slightly dissatisfied, he would use the shape-shifting technique. Come and transform. Among these furniture, there are many typical Necromancer furniture, such as a teapot that automatically pours tea in the mirror that comments on the clothes, etc. He also bought an antenna and a powerful generator, and made some magical modifications. After the transformation, the antenna can be connected to Muggle TV and telephone systems regardless of distance, and will also be able to connect to Muggle networks in the future, and the generator can be driven by magic, so that he can use Muggle electrical appliances at home. Arthur Weasley was very interested in Yeting's skills. He strongly asked Yeting to install such a gadget in his home, but he regretfully gave up after hearing the price of these Muggle appliances. Finally, after spending a week, Yeting's new home was finally decorated, but he still had new work to do, modifying the original bus. In fact, Yeting is very envious of the Weasley family's Ford car that can fly and become invisible. After all, traveling on a broomstick is convenient and fast, but how can it be as easy and comfortable as driving a car? With the help of Mr. Weasley, Yeting successfully installed the invisibility system, braking system, shock absorption and balance system, extra power system and flight system on the Olympian bus. He also modified the engine to be powered by magic power. After that, he can drive his own house comfortably and travel around the world. The last step is to connect the fireplace at home to the Ministry of Magic's flow network. However, at this point, Yeting is in trouble, because he is an underage necromancer but owns Zhao's house. If he reports to the Ministry of Magic if an application is issued, the staff installing the flow network will soon discover this, and then he may be expelled from Hogwarts for illegally modifying Muggle items or for underage necromancers using magic outside of school. Fortunately, Yeting is not without connections in the Ministry of Magic. In fact, among the people he knows, the one who can help him most in this matter is his principal, Dumbledore. When Dumbledore arrived, he was immediately stunned by Yeting's genius creativity and transformation results. When visiting this bus, or this house, the old man was as curious as a child studying the magic items that Yeting personally modified, including a radio that can be connected to both Muggle and Necromancer radio stations. Not only can it serve as a surveillance camera, a full-length mirror that allows you to see the outside world of the bus and can be connected to Muggle TV programs, a Muggle washing machine with water-making spells and drying spells, etc. He studied very seriously and never tired of it. Finally, he reluctantly moved his eyes away and praised Yeting, "Your alchemical creations really opened my eyes. Professor Babooling will definitely welcome you to take his class. Now you are a necromancer who understands this. There are really too few." He happily agreed to Yeting and help him establish connections with the Ministry of Magic so that his fireplace could be connected to the flow network. The Ministry of Magic has no precedent for connecting such a mobile fireplace to the flow network. Doing so may cause unknown accidents. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Dumbledore reminded worriedly before installing the flow network. Yeting. But Yeting proved with his actions that his worries were completely unnecessary. This is just a matter of spatial coordinates. It only took 1 day for Yeting to modify the fireplace and reprocess the flow powders so that the fireplace could be connected to the flow network no matter how it moved and would no longer be disturbed by coordinate movements. Regarding this technology, Dumbledore commented, "This is an era-changing invention in magical transportation. I dare say that as long as you publish this research, you will definitely get a Merlin medal." "Definitely, I'm happy to do it." Yedu happily agreed. So, he wrote the space magic theory of the moving fireplace in the form of a paper overnight, and Professor Dumbledore would help him publish the paper and fight for the honor he deserved. 0. Please give me flowers. Soon, Yeting got the news that his paper was published in the academic journal Magic Innovation. Everyone praised his theory. The only drawback was that the writing style of this paper was too boring. It's simply a straightforward account. In Yeting's opinion, this is how an academic paper should be written. If it is like other necromancers, if the paper is written in such a colorful way, what is the difference between it and a literary work? Moreover, according to internal information obtained by Dumbledore, with this invention, he was able to obtain a Merlin third-class medal. At the same time, LU Company also approached Yeting. 0. This company is the only company in the UK that produces flow powder. After consultation, Yeting decided to separate the mobile fireplace technology and let part of the function of this technology be realized through flow powder, while he simplified the ancient magic script involved in the other part of the technology into a spell. In this case, all necromancers can learn this moving fireplace spell. As long as they use the moving fireplace spell on their own fireplace, they can transform it into a mobile flow network entrance, and then use special flow powder to the fireplace can be connected to the flow network anytime and anywhere. Yeting published the spell for free, and authorized the formula of the special flow powder to the flow company. Under this situation, the flow company became the only company in the world that could produce this special flow powder for mobile fireplaces. Flow Fan Company. The mission of the Flow Bang Company is to promote the mobile fireplace spell, and then sell special flow powder to users of mobile fireplaces. With the continuous popularity of mobile fireplaces, the Flow Bang Company will be able to monopolize the flow powder market in the world. Yeting designed this plan for the Flow Bang Company, and he also benefited from it. According to his agreement with the Flow Bang Company, 30% of the profits of all special flow powder belongs to Yeting, although the price of each scoop of flow powder is only 2 SIK, but small profits but quick turnover, he will soon be able to earn a large amount of gold galleons with this. Just as Yeting was thinking hard about his money-making plan, Dumbledore brought him new news. He actually helped Yeting to register for the International Necromancer Chess Competition without permission. Chapter 82. Necromancer Chess Game? Why do you want me to participate? Facing the smiling Dumbledore in front of him, Yeting had the idea of hitting someone for the first time. Why did this old guy have such an inexplicable task assigned to him? He is very busy now, and he still has a lot of things to do, and his schedule is full. He has to tidy up the newly renovated house, prepare various plants for the new garden, and still need to return the magic stone that he just received not long ago. He has not started researching, and he also wants to study Agmanese during the summer vacation. I've heard about your record. Dumbledore explained with a smile, you played well when facing the necromancer chess level. I have never seen such a battle strategy, the bridge controls more people at the same time. Chess piece to crush the opponent. I heard that it was your first time to play necromancer chess, right? Oh, you are so well informed. Yeting rolled his eyes perfunctorily, but I am very busy now. I still have a lot of books to read, and there is still a lot of research to be done. I don't have time. Participate in that international necromancer chess competition. You are the most capable student I have ever seen, Dumbledore sighed and complimented, I have seen many capable young people, but none of them work as hard as you. They will spend a lot of energy on fun, comparison, love, and other trivial matters. Sometimes, I even feel that you are not as mature as a young man. However, I think you push yourself too hard, why not be with people of the same age? How about taking a chance to relax like a child? You consider international necromancer chess competitions as relaxation? Yes, I think this is a relaxation for you. Dumbledore looked at Yeting with a half-smile. To be honest, Hogwarts has not made any achievements in this competition for many years. I still remember that whether it was in my era or Professor McGonagall's era, Hogwarts could always get a good name in the International Necromancer Chess Competition, but now, no one has participated in WAS for several years in a row. In this competition, in OU's magic school, it is Booth Barton's students who dominate the competition. Okay, I will think about it carefully. Yeting was a little annoyed by what he heard, so he had to deal with it casually. It won't take you much time, only 2 or 3 days at most. Dumbledore saw his attitude and continued to persuade, I heard that you are decorating your garden recently. If you are willing to participate in this competition, no matter what the prize, I will make the decision no matter how high you rank. How about asking Professor Sprout to give you a copy of the seeds of all the precious herbs in the Hogwarts greenhouse? Are you serious? Yeting was a little tempted. It was very troublesome to collect so many kinds of herbs. It would be easy if you could get all this directly from Hogwarts. Definitely, I am the principal of Hogwarts, and I still have some power in my hands. Dumbledore winked at him jokingly. Any ranking? No matter what the ranking is. But I believe you won't deal with me, an old man, in this regard, right? At this time, Yeting felt that this old man was quite annoying, because he did know Yeting very well, and Yeting had always done things like this, either don't do it, or do the best. Okay, you win. He sighed, as you wish, I will participate in this competition with you, I am determined to move. This international necromancer chess competition was held on a small island in the Mediterranean. The anti-apparition spell was cast on the island, and the way to get here was through the porte-cayette. After passing the door key, Yeting and Dumbledore appeared in a large square. There were many necromancers coming and going around, and the competition site was in the castle in the center of the square. Obviously, the International Necromancer Chess Competition has a very high status among necromancers. At least judging from the number of people, there are quite a few people who came to the competition. Most of them come from different countries, but they are still mostly European and American. Definitely, there are also many players and spectators from Central Asia, and Mr. Fanping is from Asia. However, compared to the past, the number of Asian players today has made 0 breakthroughs. For a long time, Asian necromancers have preferred to play a game of playing black and white chess pieces on an empty chessboard. Necromancer chess is still a recent game. It only became popular there 100 years ago, but necromancers never admit the importance of changes in Muggle society here. Yeting discovered that Dumbledore was indeed very famous internationally. They had just arrived here for a while, and no less than 10 necromancers came to say hello to him. These necromancers all looked very old, but their magic power was not weak. You can tell by looking at him that he is not a simple character. Definitely, these old people are not here to compete. They are either necromancer chess enthusiasts who have purchased expensive tickets and come to watch the game, or they are guardians who bring their juniors to participate in the game. These old people enthusiastically introduced their descendants to Dumbledore. Judging by their names, most of these young people are their grandchildren or granddaughters. From this point of view, these people come from large families in the necromancer world. However, Yeting didn't like these people, so he just barely dealt with them when greeting them. Despite this, Dumbledore still introduced Yeting to them. When they heard that Yeting was the inventor of the most popular mobile fireplace in the wizarding world, everyone among them expressed surprise and admiration to Yeting. Ground gaze. Are all the young people coming here to compete? Yeting asked Dumbledore softly after bidding farewell to an old necromancer from Denmark. Oh, yes, although there are some old people participating, most of the contestants are young people. Dumbledore nodded slightly. You have to know that playing necromancer is a very energy-consuming thing. I am young. When I was young, I could hang out with others for 3 days and 3 nights in a row, but now. He smiled self-deprecatingly. Although we old men have some advantages in magic power and experience, you see, as long as the next 1 or 2 games, we will run out of energy. Next, Dumbledore took Yeting to meet several other acquaintances. According to Dumbledore, they are all necromancers with the highest academic level in the necromancer industry today. A frequent guest in academic publications such as Encyclopedia of Practical Potions. 4.0 After learning about Yeting's identity, these old people warmly welcomed this young man who had made outstanding academic achievements at a young age. This time, Yeting finally didn't just say hello like before. He chatted happily with these old people and exchanged a lot of academic opinions on magic, shape-shifting, etc., and finally we exchanged mailing addresses with many of them and agreed to write letters to each other. Oh, it's rare to see you chatting so happily with other people. After leaving them, Dumbledore looked at Yeting with some curiosity. Ms. Sprengle also said that she would introduce her granddaughter to you. I dare you, she said she had never admired a young man so much. They are all great old people. Yeting said happily, with a smile on his lips, they are very knowledgeable and I have benefited a lot from communicating with them. Chapter 83. At the competition site, Yeting and Dumbledore met an unexpected acquaintance. She was a big woman, so big that Yeting had never seen her before in his life. Among the people he knew, only Hagrid could compare with her. She has a very handsome olive face, a pair of big black eyes, and a very pointed nose. Her hair was slicked back and pulled into a shiny bun at the base of her neck. She was wrapped in a black wrought garment from head to toe, and many luxurious opals shone around her neck and on her thick fingers. When she saw Dumbledore, she smiled gracefully, stretched out a sparkling hand, and walked towards Dumbledore. Although Dumbledore was also tall, he barely bent down when he kissed this hand. "Hello, dear Madame Maxime," he said, "long time no see." "Hello, Dumbledore," Mrs. Maxim said in a low voice, "long time no see. I mean, in this arena, no one from Hogwarts has come to participate in the scolding competition for a long time." "Yes, I'm really ashamed." Dumbledore smiled nonchalantly, pushed Yeting, and introduced, "This is the student I brought to participate in the competition, Ting Yet. Although he is young, he is in terms of necromancer chess skills, even us old guys have to be defeated." Then, he said to Yeting, "This is Mrs. Olam Maxim, she is the principal of the Booth Barton Magic Academy in France. In addition, the female necromancers of Booth Barton are all outstanding. They are both beautiful and excellent." After saying that, he raised an eyebrow at Yeting. What an old man! After listening to Dumbledore's introduction, Mrs. Maxim looked Yeting up and down. "Is this your favorite disciple? I have heard of his name in France, and I have to say, Dumbledore, you guys geniuses like this always appear at Hogwarts." After saying that, she pulled out another girl from behind. She was so tall that the girl was completely blocked by her, and Yeting didn't even notice her. "Fleur Delacour, a fourth-year student at Booth Barton, is the most outstanding girl in our college." She proudly introduced them to them. "In terms of necromancer, she is even better than Ms. Delade 4 years ago. I believe she will definitely get better results. In fact, Fleur Delacour is the most beautiful girl Yeting has ever seen. She is tall, has big blue eyes, neat white teeth, and long silver hair like a waterfall. It hung down to her waist." However, in addition to her appearance, this girl also had a different kind of attraction. This strange attraction made Yeting somewhat unable to control himself. He found that he couldn't help but want to do something weird, attracting the attention of the girl in front of me. But immediately, he used his own will to get rid of this feeling of attraction, and everything became normal. He had to sigh that Flea's ability to charm others was really hard to guard against. She was worthy of being a girl with Vila blood. In the original book, she was also selected by the Goblet of Fire to represent Booth Barton in the Triwizard Tournament. You must know that although Yeting can easily get rid of this charm, it is due to his strong willpower created by his infinitely progressive ability. Ordinary people can't compare with him, so if they face the girl in front of them, their hearts will be completely out of control. Yeting can imagine what will happen once Fleur uses this ability in public in the Muggle world. That was an absolute disaster. Yeting looked at the girl in front of him calmly and reminded, "Ms. Delacour, don't you think it is impolite to use Vila's ability on others?" The boy in front of her was not affected by her ability at all, which surprised Fleur because even her peers, no one could resist her charm. Even Mrs. Maxim gave Yeting a high look. "I'm sorry," Furong curtsied elegantly to Yeting, her voice was quite pleasant, "I didn't mean to do this, I was just curious about you. In the past 2 days, Mrs. Maxim has always you can forgive my behavior when I mention you, right? Okay, I forgive you. Girls always have some privileges." Yeting smiled and said to her, "But I want a piece of your hair, is that okay?" "My hair?" Upon hearing this request, the girl was a little surprised. How could anyone make such a request upon meeting her? "Definitely, but you have to tell me first what you want to do." "For research," Yeting replied seriously, "I have never seen a Vila. I am very curious about the charm ability of this creature. I want to know the source of this ability." This answer shocked Fleur so much that she felt a little pretentious. So she glared at Yeting and said harshly, "Okay, you research freak." Soon, the organizer sent a staff member, who asked the players to enter the corresponding competition room immediately, so Yeting waved goodbye to her. The rule of the competition is a knockout system. There are 64 players participating in the competition. Each player is a player recommended by various famous magic schools or the most famous necromancer chess club. The competition will last for 5 rounds in total, and the last 2 players will stand out to determine the champion and runner-up. The first 2 rounds are determined by 1 battle, the last 3 rounds are best of 3 sets, and the final is a best of 5 set system. In the first match, Yeting's opponent was a middle-aged man in his 30s. His clothes were gorgeous and his manners were elegant. You could tell at a glance that he was from a famous family. When he found out that his opponent was just a 12-year-old child, the player immediately relaxed a little and looked at Yeting with contempt. However, soon, Yeting gave him a blow on the chessboard. This time, he did not use extreme multi-line manipulation, but played chess at about the same speed as his opponent. However, Yeting's brain calculation speed is much faster than his opponent. With his level of intelligence, if he participated in a chess competition, he could easily win the world championship, and only a supercomputer could defeat him. However, as long as he can devote enough time to study, as he continues to improve, I believe that even supercomputers will not be his opponent. Faced with such an enemy, how could this middle-aged man be able to fight back? In just 10 minutes, he was killed to pieces. The second round begins in the afternoon. In this round, Yeting's opponent is a dry old man. His chess speed is not fast, but his methods are very sophisticated and he is good at conspiracy. In the last game, the trap he set completely confused his opponent. As a result, his opponent and his chess pieces had differences of opinion, and they had a quarrel on the spot, which ultimately led to the loss of the game. In this game, he repeated his old tricks. The opponent in front of him was younger than the one in the previous game. He felt that this time, his strategy would be more effective. But this time, he found that this move was completely ineffective. Although his opponent is young, he is very capable in controlling the chess pieces. No matter how he sets traps and baits, the opponent's chess players remain unmoved, and the opponent's chess pieces completely obey the player's orders. Not because the chess players are young. Facing such an opponent, he was helpless. After the bait tactics failed several times, it was his own chess pieces that were the first to rebel, and his opponents immediately seized on the flaw and took him away in one wave. Chapter 84. At 9 o'clock the next morning, the third round of competition officially started. In this round, there were only 16 players left, and the game became a best-of-3 game system. This time, Yeting's opponent is a rare wizard from India. His name is Vishwanathan Babu. He has a dark complexion, wears glasses, and looks confident. According to his self-introduction, he was the champion of the last international necromancer chess competition and was called the Madras Tiger. When he found out that his opponent was a child, he immediately acted like a senior and started chatting with Yeting. "Oh, kid, is this your first time participating in an international necromancer? You must be happy to see me here as the previous champion. Don't worry, I will be merciful. I hope you can learn something from the game with me. Do you want my autograph? Don't be shy. If you want it, just say it boldly. Don't worry, after the game, I will give you a signed autobiography of mine, which was just published. Want to know the origin of my nickname Madras Tiger? It's mentioned in my autobiography. No, this is not a small talk, this is just one-sided talking to oneself in front of the opponent. This guy is not only narcissistic, but also a talkative, which is really annoying." Yeting's face was livid the whole time. He is not interested in such people at all. He neither wants his signed autobiography nor does he want to know whether the Madras Tiger is a tiger from Madras or a kind of tiger called Madras Tiger. He just wants to compete. Start immediately, then quickly defeat this annoying guy on the field and leave here early. He even suspected that in the last international necromancer chess competition, the Indian named Babu convinced his opponent through his talking skills and won the championship. Finally, the arduous preparation time passed and the game officially began. As soon as the game started, Yeting gave his best. Definitely, the previous champion is still quite capable, at least the speed of issuing orders is much faster than Yeting's first 2 opponents, but facing Yeting, a monster who can order more than 8 chess pieces at the same time, he still has to accept defeat. In the entire game, the Indian guy could only have a decent back and forth with Yeting in the first few dozen seconds. However, as Yeting's advantage in operating speed was fully revealed, he could only be eroded step by step. He was defeated in 10 minutes. In the second game, Babu seemed to have given up his attitude as a senior and wanted to do his best. However, this time, he was defeated faster and was defeated by General Yeting in just 5 minutes. This ending shocked him greatly. When he recovered from the failure, Yeting had already left the competition room. "I protest!" Barb shouted to the referee, "I think someone used the Imperious Curse on me." "That's just a child," the referee helplessly reassured the former champion in front of him, "it's impossible for him to use the Imperious Curse on you. I think your current state is very bad. You need some calming medicine." However, the news that a 12-year-old child defeated the previous champion twice in 15 minutes spread like wildfire on the cold field. Everyone began to care about who this child was and how he did this. Some people think that this child used the Imperious Curse on his opponent, and others think that this is an old guy who drank an age-reducing agent and came to participate in the competition. Finally, someone found Yeting's name from the player roster, because he was the youngest among all the players, and he was the only 12-year-old player. In the words of the audience at that game, Yeting's exaggerated tactics were also made public. No one believes this is true, because even the most skilled necromancer chess player can only control 5 chess pieces at the same time, and in this case, he can only take one step and look at the other, and has no energy at all. Carry out overall layout. Everyone felt that these audience members were talking crazy or were bewitched by some spell. As a result, the discussion about Yeting's method to win intensified. "Did you really use the Imperious Curse on your opponent during the game?" After defeating her opponent, Fleur Delacour quickly found Yeting, who was hiding in the corner reading a book, and asked him curiously. "It definitely can't be true." Yeting rolled his eyes. "It's not worth me to use the soul-stealing curse to deal with such an opponent." "You must be bragging," Fleur snorted, "that was the last champion." "So what about the former champion?" "I don't need to use my full strength to deal with him." Yeting's expression seemed a bit disdainful. "Is that so?" Fleur cast a suspicious look at him. "If you can keep winning, we will definitely meet in the competition. Can you let me see all your abilities by then?" All the skills she talks about definitely refer to Yeting's full strength. However, Yeting gave her a bad smile. The girl in front of him was indeed quite cute, and he wanted to tease her. He deliberately looked up and down the girl's exquisite curves. "Do you really want to see my all abilities? I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it." When Furong heard this, her pretty face couldn't help but blush. "Oops, it seems that I said the wrong thing." If it were an ordinary girl, she would either lower her head shyly or lose her temper, but Fleur was different. She had Vila blood. Growing up, the boys around her were either completely attracted to her and behaved like a dog licker, he was either serious and didn't even dare to touch her. Only Yeting, although only 12 years old, was not only unmoved by her charm, but also took the initiative to tease her, which made her think a lot about Yeting. Interest of. She raised her beautiful eyes and said provocatively to Yeting, "Zhao Qian, how do you know you can't bear it if you haven't tried it?" After saying that, she took a step forward, exhaled like a blue breath, and said, "How about you let me give it a try?" Facing this moving face in front of him, Yeting had no choice but to surrender. He smiled bitterly and said to Furong, "There is a game in the afternoon, I'll leave first." Seeing Yeting admitting defeat, Furong seemed to have won the game. She snorted happily and said, "You must let me see you." After saying that, she waved her fist at Yeting as if to demonstrate. Then he left happily. Fleur was right, they did meet during the competition. It was the morning of the 3rd day of the competition. In the 5th round, Yi Ji happened to face Yeting. The winner among them will advance to the finals, while the loser will have to compete for 3rd and 4th place. "I thought we would meet in the finals." She sighed regretfully. Chapter 85. The 5th round is still best of 3. Because they were acquaintances, Yeting did not use extreme operations as soon as he arrived in the first game, saving some face for Furong. However, as the game continued, Yeting discovered that Furong's necromancer chess level was not as high as he imagined. Although her chess skills are considered superb, there is no way she can reach the level of the semi-finalists in the International Necromancer Chess Competition. There is definitely something fishy in it. Soon, Yeting discovered the clues. The Furong in front of her began to use her lack of experience again. Could it be that she defeated her opponent by charming her opponent and making him unable to think? He frowned. "No, Fleur should already know that her ability is useless to me, so why does she continue to use the charm ability?" Suddenly, Yeting keenly discovered that among the chess pieces on his field, except for the queen, all the chess pieces were not in normal condition. They began to stagger around, resisting Yeting's orders, and ogling Furong. Even his king started to do this. Behind the king, Yeting's queen looked ugly and kept hitting the king's head with her scepter. 697 IC. Yeting suddenly realized that this was Furong's real tactic. Through his own Vila power, charming is a chess piece of magical creation. This control of Vila power can be regarded as the pinnacle. And the best part is, Vila power is not magic, so using this power in the exhibition hall is not a foul, but few people can use the power of charm so well. Caught off guard, Yeting suffered a hidden loss. Thus was eaten a pawn and a knight, the romantic knight being the first pawn to surrender like Fleur. However, facing the power of Vila, Yeting immediately had a countermeasure. In fact, since Yeting used his momentum to intimidate all the chess pieces on the Hogwarts chessboard, he has a better understanding of the spiritual power of momentum. For ordinary people, the so-called momentum is just a person's mental state, which cannot be directly felt by other people. However, momentum can be displayed through every gesture and movement of a person. However, for those who have mastered certain supernatural abilities, the so-called aura can be projected directly, Ika. For example, the various meanings in martial arts, the anger of warriors, the overlord color domineering in One Piece, etc. are all manifestations of momentum. In the world of Harry Potter, momentum, or the projection of spirit and emotion, also exists. For example, Harry's mother's so-called magic of love contains the emotion of love. That makes the effect outstanding. Many necromancers, if they are emotional when using magic, their combat power will be several times stronger. The Vila's charming ability is actually a projection of emotion. Through that experience, Yeting also mastered the projection of emotions, or the ability to generate momentum. Although it is useless in most cases, it can be used to infect and encourage others, or in this case, this ability still has some use. And it is this ability that allows Yeting to exude the aura of an iron-blooded commander intentionally or unintentionally, intimidating all the chess pieces. In this way, he can use his status as a new chess player to impose orders and prohibitions on all chess pieces. The chess pieces are completely don't dare to oppose his orders. Faced with Furong's charming power, he needed to further explode his momentum. Yeting immediately concentrated his mind consciously, and then unleashed all his inner dissatisfaction with his own chess pieces being easily seduced, as well as his overbearing desire to control the chess pieces, with the help of magic power. Suddenly, a cold, heavy, iron-blooded aura enveloped Yeting's chess pieces. All the chess pieces suddenly trembled and felt a chill all over their bodies. At this moment, they immediately woke up from Furong's charm and began to follow Yeting's orders obediently. Such changes shocked Fleur. She didn't understand why her ability to be invincible had failed. She raised her head and glanced at Yeting, who smiled slightly at her and nodded. As a result, Fleur didn't see anything. She didn't believe in evil, so she increased her charm ability, but it was useless. Yeting's chess pieces still faithfully carried out the player's orders and did not dare to slack off at all. Finally, Fleur realized that her ability had been cracked by her opponent, but she didn't even know how her opponent had done it. This hit her hard. Soon, the first game was over. Without the help of the power of Vila, just relying on her chess skills, Furong was no match for Yeting and was defeated. The second game followed the same routine. Fla's Vila power still didn't work, so she lost the semifinals. While shaking hands with Yeting, Furong asked curiously, "How did you do it? All your chess pieces were obviously seduced by me." Yeting curled his lips, "I myself am immune to your ability, there's no reason why my chess pieces can't do it." What a perfunctory excuse. Furong pouted unwillingly, looking very cute. She turned to encourage Yeting, "Although I haven't seen your extreme multi-line operation with my own eyes, since you can defeat me, then you are a good chess player, so you must win the championship, otherwise I will look down on you." "What do you mean by tentatively?" Yeting rolled his eyes, "But I will definitely win, don't worry." In fact, after Yeting defeated the previous champion and cheating players like Fleur Delacour, none of the other players participating in the International Necromancer chess competition was his opponent. In the decisive battle that afternoon, the opponent Yeting encountered was much mediocre compared to these two. He had neither charm ability nor mouth escape ability. He just played chess in a regular manner. This is a Russian player named Mikhail Kasparov. He has participated in the International Necromancer chess competition for several consecutive years. He is a veteran chess player and the previous champion who was defeated by Qin. Vishwanathan Babu is also an old rival. In fact, most of the players who reached the end of the competition were old rivals, and people like Yeting were the complete dark horses, and they were terrifyingly young. Mikhail Kasparov's chess style is quite rigorous. Compared to Necromancer, his chess playing method is closer to that of Muggles. He takes one move and looks at 10 moves. His chess moves are rigorous and rational. However, facing a multi-line cheat player like Yeting, he still had to accept the defeat. Chapter 86. In the finals, Yeting no longer reserved his strength and simply turned on all his firepower, allowing everyone to see the limits of multi-line operations. After the game, according to the referee's calculations, Yeting ordered up to 14 chess pieces at the same time during the game. Each side only had 16 pieces in total, and the instructions were clear and not chaotic at all. Faced with such a chess player, what else can they say? This finals can be called the shortest finals. The total game time is less than 15 minutes. In other words, on average, each game ends in less than 5 minutes. You are such a terrifying opponent. After the game, Kasparov wiped the sweat from his head and said to Yeting, "I have never seen someone like you who can control so many chess pieces at the same time. This game, I am indeed no match at all." After speaking, he sighed loudly, "The Necromancer chess world in the future will be ruled by you." The competition for the championship and runner-up finally ended, and an hour later, the competition between the third and fourth place also came to an end. The winner was definitely Fleur Delacour. Her opponent was still full of lust and soul after walking out of the arena. Look. At the final award ceremony, Dumbledore and the president of the International Necromancer Chess Association presented the award to Yeting. The trophy was an image of a king made of pure gold, and there was also a pair of exquisitely crafted Necromancer chess as a prize. After awarding the award, Dumbledore introduced Yeting as a student of Hogwarts in front of everyone. Looking at this young face on the stage, and thinking of his crushing performance at the end of the final in 15 minutes, all the players were lamenting that the dark era of Necromancer chess is coming. With this person here, no matter how hard other players struggle, it is impossible for him to win the championship, and he is so young. Next, Yeting will deliver his acceptance speech. Everyone is looking forward to what the youngest champion in history will say. "I'm very happy that I can win this competition." Yeting said the same old words, "Thank you to Hogwarts for training me, thank you to the professors for their sincere teachings, thank you." All in all, it was just clichés, which disappointed reporters. They thought that the youngest champion would say something outrageous. After all, as a young man, it is not strange to be arrogant. Who would have known that this guy was just an old fool? He talked for a long time, but actually said nothing meaningful and could not find any topic worthy of reporting. Just when the reporters were disappointed, Yeting dropped a big bomb at the end of his speech. "This is my first time to participate in an international necromancer chess competition, but it is also my last time to participate in this competition." As soon as these words came out, the audience was immediately in an uproar. Dumbledore smiled bitterly. All the chess players became excited. "I will not compete again, nor will I accept challenges from others," he said loudly. "Anyone who wants to challenge me in Necromancer chess, please first become the champion of the International Necromancer Chess Competition. As long as you become the champion of the International Necromancer Chess Competition, if you are the champion, you can come and challenge me. I won't refuse anyone who comes." Just like that, he ended his speech. But the reporters were all excited. But all the Necromancer players who thought they had a chance to win the championship were disappointed. "Who wants to challenge you? How is this your declaration to face the challenger? You are driving all future champions of international Necromancer chess competitions to their death." He said that he would no longer participate in competitions, but he would not refuse the challenge of the championship. Doesn't this mean that if any champion cannot defeat him, then he cannot be regarded as a worthy champion? The game is over and people are leaving the island one after another. When leaving, everyone's expressions were quite wonderful. The reporters and the audience all looked satisfied, because the game was so exciting and the news was so shocking. All the contestants looked ugly, because the future of the Necromancer chess world would be dominated by this talented chess player who was only 12 years old. In front of the door key, Furong was saying goodbye to Yeting. "That sentence you said at the end of your speech is so cool." Furong praised Yeting. "You didn't see the other people's faces. They all looked ugly at the beginning. When you said you would no longer participate in the competition, when you said it, they immediately became happy, but after you said the last sentence, their faces changed back, which is really funny." Yeting looked at the girl's face with a smile. What about you? What were you thinking at the time? He asked. I'm not unhappy at all, Furong explained coquettishly, these people can't control their own thoughts and deserve to lose to me. Only people like you deserve to be the final champion. 0, please give me flowers. The two talked for a while, and finally, Dumbledore got rid of the reporter and hurried to the door key. I'm leaving, Yeting looked at Furong with some reluctance. 3 days of getting along with her made her develop a good impression of the girl in front of her. Are you leaving? Fleur nodded to him, be sure to remember to write to me. You can come to France to play with me when you have time. By the way, I still owe you a hair. She turned her head away and wiped the corners of her eyes secretly. Now there are 2, Yeting corrected, 1 is for research and 10 are for collection. Yes, there are 2. She smiled through tears and put the 2 hairs in Yeting's hand. Yeting's hand touched her fingers. Very smooth and soft. Finally, Furong couldn't help it any longer. She suddenly came forward and kissed Yeting on the face, then shrank back as if she was frightened. Although she has Vila blood, she is surprisingly innocent. Goodbye. She winked at him. Bon voyage. After passing the door key, Yeting still felt a little disappointed. A very cute girl, isn't she? Looking at Yeting like this, Dumbledore couldn't help teasing, only at this time do I think you look like a young man. I have completed the agreement. Yeting deliberately changed the subject, when can you give me the seeds you promised me? Don't be so utilitarian. Dumbledore smiled bitterly, at least let me, as the principal, be proud of my students for a while. Okay. Yeting shook his head helplessly and threw the trophy to Dumbledore, you can put this thing in the school's trophy room, it will be your pride. Okay, young people are always so impatient. Dumbledore caught the trophy and sighed, but I still want to thank you. You really made Hogwarts proud of you. Before operating back to Hogwarts, he said to Yeting, I will send the seeds to your home one after another, remember to check them, and he winked mischievously, enjoy your vacation. After saying that, he disappeared from Yeting's gaze. You too. Yeting looked at the direction in which he disappeared and sighed, starting from next summer vacation, you will be very busy. Chapter 87. After participating in the International Necromancer Chess Competition, Yeting hid in the village of St. Catchpole, as if he was living in seclusion here and no longer cared about the outside world. However, through the Necromancer broadcast and the Daily Prophet, he was still able to understand a little bit about the situation in the outside world. In fact, after Yeting made a shocking championship acceptance speech, the media reported crazily on him, and topics about him began to become heated. It is no exaggeration to say that in the Necromancer world, he completely occupied the front pages of all newspapers. Just look at these titles, the winner of the International Necromancer Chess Competition is determined, and he is only 12 years old. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry regains Necromancer chess crown 30 years later. The Dark Lord is coming. Will he rule the Necromancer chess world for 50 years? The champion declares that he will no longer compete. The uncrowned king deserves his title. Unprecedented. Watch the 12-year-old chess king perform extreme exercises. 997 shocked. This man was 12 years old. It seems like there is some strange title mixed into it. However, this does prove that Yeting has become popular. He and his declaration became the hottest topic in the entire Necromancer world in mid-July. Everyone is very interested in this young champion and hopes to know more about him. Nowadays, reporters constantly want to interview him, learn everything about him, and dig into the story behind him. But Yeting wisely hid in a remote village like St. Catchpole village. Now the only people who know his location are Dumbledore and the Weasley family, but they are reliable enough and will not reveal the news to anyone. Reporter. Therefore, so far, no newspaper has been able to get an interview with Yeting. Even local newspapers in the UK are no exception. Barnabas Guffey, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Prophet, has personally visited Hogwarts several times, but has never found out Yeting's location from Dumbledore. This made him very distressed, so he had to do the next best thing and interview Yeting's professors and classmates instead. We should be thankful that it is summer vacation and all students have returned home. Otherwise, Hogwarts would be flooded by reporters from all over the world, and it might even affect normal classes. Yeting's popularity reached its peak after the latest issue of Magic Innovation was released. Originally, academic journals like Magic Innovation did not receive much attention. Only real researchers and professors would subscribe to it. Most necromancers would rather pay attention to some entertainment publications, and even the Quibbler has more readers than it. Fall. But this time, when someone discovered that Yeting's name actually appeared on Magic Innovation, everything was different. The youngest champion in the history of the International Necromancer Chess Competition actually published a paper in a publication like Magic Innovation, and he was even placed on the first page. A necromancer chess master actually has such attainments in magic. This is simply a legend. Everyone seems to have seen a big shot like Dumbledore, Grindelwald, or Voldemort rising. Yeting became more famous, even the Romanian black necromancer knew his name. And his professors and classmates are all proud of him. At the moment, Bang Company also timely announced Yeting's new invention, the mobile fireplace, a revolutionary invention that allows necromancers to enter the Flow network anytime and anywhere. As long as you use a mobile fireplace charm and use Bang Company's Flow powder, you can enter the Flow network anytime and anywhere. In short, it is a movable teleportation array. You only need to build a teleportation array and it can be used anywhere. This technology not only facilitates ordinary necromancers, but also reduces the workload of the Flow network administration of the Ministry of Magic. It is indeed a disruptive invention. Mobile fireplaces became an instant hit. After learning about Yeting's new invention, countless necromancers said that it would change their travel patterns. The moving hearth spell began to become a required spell in many magic schools, and Flow powder companies from all over the world approached the Bang Company one after another to seek cooperation, otherwise there would be valuable assets. Bang Company and Yeting both made a lot of money. But that's all for the future. But in fact, after returning to St. Catchpole village, the hustle and bustle of the outside world had nothing to do with Yeting. Now, he spends all day in the greenhouse garden on the roof of the car and has become a green finger. He wears dragon skin gloves and works with dragon dung every day, busy planting barbo tubers, mandrake roots, fang geraniums, etc. into the fertile soil. In the corner of the greenhouse, he also planted some devil's net, poisonous tentacles and knotty vines, and even transplanted a young whomping willow sapling. When these plants grow up, they can become his automatic defense force. In order to speed up the growth of these seedlings, Yeting simply hung his broomstick sun wheel in the greenhouse, trying to use the power of the sun from the sun wheel to help the plants grow. If the sun disk has a weapon spirit, his weapon spirit will definitely cry. After completing the construction of the greenhouse garden, Yeting no longer spends too much time on it. Oriana will take care of the daily care. He only needs to wait for a while, and the greenhouse garden will be able to provide Yeting with energy constantly. Lots of magic materials. Definitely, for some precious materials, he still needs to buy them on the market or collect them in the Forbidden Forest. But in most cases this greenhouse flower surround can satisfy his wife's needs. Now, it's time to shift your energy to more important things. The first target before him is the Philosopher's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is a mythical substance that has long been the holy grail of Western alchemists. It is believed to be able to turn ordinary base metals into precious metals, or create elixirs of immortality. Therefore, its titles include Philosopher's Stone, Stone from Heaven, Philosopher's Stone, Raw Material of Gold and Silver, Red Potion, Fifth Element, and so on. The Philosopher's Stone is the pinnacle of mortal alchemy and the beginning of entering the realm of God. Countless great alchemists have added countless complementary words to the Philosopher's Stone. Alchemy Museum said, "This is the oldest, most mysterious, or least known, the most unreasonable in nature, and it is also blessed and sacred by God." Raz, the 19th century Persian alchemist master, said, "It is a substance composed of 4 uniform properties and 3 uniform forces. This substance and force do not cancel each other out, which can make it noble. 4.2 Water cannot dissolve it, fire cannot destroy it, but according to its effectiveness and delicacy, it is spirit. By its strength and solidity, it is a metal in every magical world. The Philosopher's Stone is the greatest treasure." Diablo, World of Warcraft, Full Metal Alchemist, Swordsman, Oriental Project, Irregulars at Magic High School, Rose Maiden, World of the Moon. Now, this treasure is in front of Yeting. Although it may not be perfect, it can indeed be regarded as the Philosopher's Stone. He hopes to learn how to make the real Philosopher's Stone through research on the Philosopher's Stone, but this will definitely be a long project. After all, even a great alchemist like Nico Flamel only had one magic stone, and no one before him could create it. Yeting hopes that his research on the magic stone will be fruitful. Chapter 87. After participating in the International Necromancer Chess Competition, Yeting hid in the village of St. Catchpole, as if he was living in seclusion here and no longer cared about the outside world. However, through the Necromancer broadcast and the Daily Prophet, he was still able to understand a little bit about the situation in the outside world. In fact, after Yeting made a shocking championship acceptance speech, the media reported crazily on him, and topics about him began to become heated. It is no exaggeration to say that in the Necromancer world, he completely occupied the front pages of all newspapers. Just look at these titles: the winner of the International Necromancer Chess Competition is determined, and he is only 12 years old. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry regains Necromancer chess crown. 30 years later the Dark Lord is coming. Will he rule the Necromancer chess world for 50 years? The champion declares that he will no longer compete. The uncrowned king deserves his title. Unprecedented. Watch the 12-year-old chess king perform extreme exercises. 997 Shocked. This man was 12 years old. It seems like there is some strange title mixed into it. However, this does prove that Yeting has become popular. He and his declaration became the hottest topic in the entire Necromancer world in mid-July. Everyone is very interested in this young champion and hopes to know more about him. Nowadays, reporters constantly want to interview him, learn everything about him, and dig into the story behind him. But Yeting wisely hid in a remote village like St. Catchpole village. Now the only people who know his location are Dumbledore and the Weasley family, but they are reliable enough and will not reveal the news to anyone. Reporter. Therefore, so far, no newspaper has been able to get an interview with Yeting. Even local newspapers in the UK are no exception. Barnabas Guffey, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Prophet, has personally visited Hogwarts several times, but has never found out Yeting's location from Dumbledore. This made him very distressed, so he had to do the next best thing and interview Yeting's professors and classmates instead. We should be thankful that it is summer vacation and all students have returned home. Otherwise, Hogwarts would be flooded by reporters from all over the world, and it might even affect normal classes. Yeting's popularity reached its peak after the latest issue of Magic Innovation was released. Originally, academic journals like Magic Innovation did not receive much attention. Only real researchers and professors would subscribe to it. Most necromancers would rather pay attention to some entertainment publications, and even the Quibbler has more readers than it. Fall. But this time, when someone discovered that Yeting's name actually appeared on Magic Innovation, everything was different. The youngest champion in the history of the International Necromancer Chess Competition actually published a paper in a publication like Magic Innovation? And he was even placed on the first page. A necromancer chess master actually has such attainments in magic. This is simply a legend. Everyone seems to have seen a big shot like Dumbledore, Grindelwald, or Voldemort rising. Yeting became more famous, even the Romanian black necromancer knew his name. And his professors and classmates are all proud of him. At the moment, Bang Company also timely announced Yeting's new invention, the mobile fireplace, a revolutionary invention that allows necromancers to enter the Flow network anytime and anywhere. As long as you use a mobile fireplace charm and use Bang Company's Flow powder, you can enter the Flow network anytime and anywhere. In short, it is a movable teleportation array. You only need to build a teleportation array and it can be used anywhere. This technology not only facilitates ordinary necromancers, but also reduces the workload of the Flow network administration of the Ministry of Magic. It is indeed a disruptive invention. Mobile fireplaces became an instant hit. After learning about Yeting's new invention, countless necromancers said that it would change their travel patterns. The moving hearth spell began to become a required spell in many magic schools, and Flow powder companies from all over the world approached the Bang Company one after another to seek cooperation, otherwise there would be valuable assets. Bang Company and Yeting both made a lot of money. But that's all for the future. But in fact, after returning to St. Catchpole village, the hustle and bustle of the outside world had nothing to do with Yeting. Now, he spends all day in the greenhouse garden on the roof of the car and has become a green finger. He wears dragon skin gloves and works with dragon dung every day, busy planting barbo tubers, mandrake roots, fang geraniums, etc. into the fertile soil. In the corner of the greenhouse, he also planted some devil's net, poisonous tentacles and knotty vines, and even transplanted a young whomping willow sapling. When these plants grow up, they can become his automatic defense force. In order to speed up the growth of these seedlings, Yeting simply hung his broomstick sun wheel in the greenhouse, trying to use the power of the sun from the sun wheel to help the plants grow. If the sun disk has a weapon spirit, his weapon spirit will definitely cry. After completing the construction of the greenhouse garden, Yeting no longer spends too much time on it. Oriana will take care of the daily care. He only needs to wait for a while, and the greenhouse garden will be able to provide Yeting with energy constantly. Lots of magic materials. Definitely, for some precious materials, he still needs to buy them on the market or collect them in the Forbidden Forest. But in most cases this greenhouse flower surround can satisfy his wife's needs. Now, it's time to shift your energy to more important things. The first target before him is the Philosopher's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is a mythical substance that has long been the holy grail of Western alchemists. It is believed to be able to turn ordinary base metals into precious metals, or create elixirs of immortality. Therefore, its titles include Philosopher's Stone, Stone from Heaven, Philosopher's Stone, Raw Material of Gold and Silver, Red Potion, Fifth Element, and so on. The Philosopher's Stone is the pinnacle of mortal alchemy and the beginning of entering the realm of God. Countless great alchemists have added countless complementary words to the Philosopher's Stone. Alchemy Museum said, "This is the oldest, most mysterious, or least known, the most unreasonable in nature, and it is also blessed and sacred by God." Raz, the 19th century Persian alchemist master, said, "It is a substance composed of 4 uniform properties and 3 uniform forces. This substance and force do not cancel each other out, which can make it noble. 4.2 Water cannot dissolve it, fire cannot destroy it, but according to its effectiveness and delicacy, it is spirit. By its strength and solidity, it is a metal in every magical world. The Philosopher's Stone is the greatest treasure." Diablo, World of Warcraft, Full Metal Alchemist, Swordsman, Oriental Project, Irregulars at Magic High School, Rose Maiden, World of the Moon. Now, this treasure is in front of Yeting. Although it may not be perfect, it can indeed be regarded as the Philosopher's Stone. He hopes to learn how to make the real Philosopher's Stone through research on the Philosopher's Stone, but this will definitely be a long project. After all, even a great alchemist like Nico Flamel only had one magic stone, and no one before him could create it. Yeting hopes that his research on the magic stone will be fruitful. Chapter 89. While Yeting was obsessed with research, something big happened to the Weasley family. Harry Potter has arrived at the burrow. Definitely, the way he came here was a farce. Unable to contact Harry for a long time, Ron asked the twins to secretly drive Mr. Weasley's Ford with them and flew to Little Whinging, Surrey. Number 4, Jean Road, brought Harry, who was imprisoned by his uncle, back to the burrow. The origin of the whole thing is very ridiculous. It was all caused by Harry Potter fans. In fact, ever since Harry Potter defeated the Dark Lord as a baby, many house elves and their like have become his admirers. This time, Dobby, the house elf of the Malfoy family, overheard that his master was launching a conspiracy against Hogwarts. As an admirer, he did not want Harry Potter to return to Hogwarts and be harmed in the conspiracy. So, he planned an accident, causing Harry's uncle to become furious with Harry, locking him up and preventing him from returning to Hogwarts. Harry had no idea about this due to the rule that the little necromancer could not use magic outside the school. Nor. After arriving at the burrow, Harry heard the news about Yeting, which made him feel very envious, because Yeting lived in the Muggle world like him, but now Yeting has gained freedom, and he don't succumb to Uncle Vernon's power. In St. Catchpole Village, Harry rarely spent half a pleasant summer vacation, and Yeting definitely did the same. In the last half-month of his summer vacation, he finally walked out of the laboratory and began to prepare his animagus. Definitely just hold the mandrake leaves in your mouth now. In the remaining time, he also played Quidditch with Harry and the Weasley brothers in a paddock at the Weasley family's house on the mountain. In addition, he also met a little girl, Luna Lovegood. Her father, Mr. Xenophilius, was the editor of The Quibbler, a magazine that often published absurd articles. This is a strange little girl. She has messy, dirty, golden hair that reaches her waist. She also has a pair of grey eyes that look dazed and bulge outward. Luna's eyebrows are light in color. She had an obvious madness because she would stick her wand behind her ears for safety, and she often dressed differently than others. The little girl is very cute, but she always has some strange ideas that make it difficult for people to follow her thoughts. Facing her, even Yeting had to surrender. In the last week of summer vacation, Yeting said goodbye to the Weasley family and took a car, definitely mainly Oriana driving, on a road trip in England. Along the way, he visited the Cravat family, the Jong family and the Granger family respectively, and picked up their daughters as a classmate. The girls were very happy to see Yeting's home in the bus and go on a journey with him, but the presence of each other made them a little unhappy. During the journey, the girls curiously asked Yeting about his experience participating in the necromancer chess competition. Yeting was careful not to mention all the experiences related to Furong, and also admired Xiang's special golden necromancer chess. I noticed that Yeting was not very talkative in recent days. He explained that it was because he had to practice animagus, so he had to hold the leaves in his mouth. The girls had become accustomed to this, because Yeting always they can learn many powerful magics one step ahead of them. Yeting spent the last few days of the vacation with the girls. The bus finally drove north, crossing mountains and ridges, and also demonstrated its flight function, finally arriving at the village of Hogsmeade in Scotland, England. The only village composed entirely of necromancers. Hogsmeade is quite close to Hogwarts Castle, and there is a secret passage leading to the castle in the village. This way they can enter Hogwarts directly without boarding the train. In addition, they also came to Diagon Alley through the fireplace on the bus to buy school supplies for the new semester. This semester's book list made Yeting very angry, because except for one standard spells, level 2 by Miranda Gorshak, they were all books by Gilderoy Lockhart. Because this semester, Lockhart will be their black magic defense teacher. But Yeting knew that Lockhart was actually a pretty bad necromancer. He was only good at the forgetting curse. What he most often did was to use the forgetting curse on other necromancers, and then took their experiences as his own and published books based on them. Sell for money. Yeting didn't know what Dumbledore was thinking. Maybe he was deceived by Lockhart and invited this incompetent guy to be a professor at Hogwarts. Lockhart seized this opportunity to send him to Hogwarts. The book is used as a textbook for black magic defense classes. 0. Please give me flowers. The most exaggerated thing is that there are 7 Lockhart books in the book list, and they are quite expensive, each costing 2 gold galleons. But in Yeting's opinion, these books are all Lockhart's rhetoric and have no practical use at all. Therefore, he strongly advised his 3 female friends not to buy these useless wastes, but at this point, Hermione Granger had some conflicts with him. Don't you think Lockhart is brave? Hermione said to Yeting excitedly, and he is full of wisdom. He is an excellent Ravenclaw. At the moment, they were standing in front of Flourish and Blott's bookstore in Diagon Alley. In the bookstore, Gilderoy Lockhart was signing books. Yeting looked at Zhangqiu and Pinello. Zhangqiu also showed an expectant look. Only Pinello looked at him with a smile on his face, obviously believing in Yeting's words. Sure enough, little girls and housewives were easier to deceive, while at the Weasleys' house, Yeting discovered that Mrs. Weasley was actually a loyal admirer of Lockhart. For the first time, Yeting felt that he was too low-key. With his achievements, if he takes the initiative to accept interviews from the media, he will definitely become a more famous star than Lockhart. In this way, maybe Hermione and Zhangqiu will believe his statement instead of Lockhart's bad book. However, this is just a thought. After becoming famous, being surrounded by the media, having no privacy and no shelter is not what he wants. After finding that he could not convince Hermione and Zhangqiu, Yeting could only sigh angrily and follow them into Flourish and Blott's bookstore to attend Lockhart's book signing. Just wait and see. Aren't you just a star? It's as if I'm not. He muttered behind him, in less than a month, Lockhart will definitely reveal his star at Hogwarts. Telltale. Definitely, I believe in you. Beside him, Pinello patted his shoulder comfortingly, I also think you are a bigger star than Lockhart. Don't worry, they are just little girls. Temper, they will soon understand your chi. Chapter 90. After entering Flourish and Blott's bookstore, they met Harry and the Weasley family, met the Malfoys and their sons, and witnessed a farce. Just hearing a clang, a crucible flew out. Mr. Weasley rushed towards Mr. Malfoy and knocked him into a bookshelf. Dozens of thick spell books fell on their heads. The 2 people struggled in a ball, and the people around them could not stop them at all. Finally, a big man over 2 meters tall emerged from the crowd. It was Hagrid, and he easily separated them. Yeting also noticed that in the chaos, Lucius Malfoy intentionally or unintentionally inserted a thick diary into Ginny Weasley's shape-shifting textbook. This diary is one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, and it is also the beginning of the new semester's conspiracy. If Yeting wanted to, he could get the diary immediately and destroy it with fire. In this way, he could severely damage Voldemort and spend 10 years safe and sound. But Yekai Baketing did not do this, because he still wanted to wait for Voldemort to use the Horcrux to release the basilisk from Slytherin's secret room. Since this was Gilderoy Lockhart's autograph signing, there were many media present, and both parties involved in the fight were not ordinary people. One was the patriarch of the ancient pureblood family, the Malfoy family, and the head of Hogwarts. One of the school directors, the other is the director of the Department for the Prohibition of the Misuse of Muggle Items in the Ministry of Magic, but there are only 2 people in this department. Such a fight between 2 people who are in trouble in public is simply big news. So a reporter stepped forward to interview both sides of the fight, but suddenly, a young female reporter discovered a bigger target next to them. "Isn't that the youngest necromancer chess champion, Ting Yat?" The female reporter couldn't help shouting, and then she reacted and closed her mouth regretfully. That could have been her exclusive news. It was too late now. Everyone saw Yeting, who was buying books. The reporters left Lockhart and the 2 old men fighting and ran in the direction of Yejian. It has only been more than a month since Yeting became the champion of the International Necromancer Chess Competition, and next month, the Ministry of Magic is also preparing to award Yeting the Merlin Order of Merlin, Level 3, for his invention of the mobile fireplace technology. In other words, Yeting's limelight has not passed yet, and he is still a topical figure at this time. Due to his age, his topicality is far more than that of Gilderoy Lockhart. This accident made Yeting quite annoyed, because it meant that his trip to Diagon Alley had to end in a hurry, and he had to leave here immediately, otherwise he would definitely be in trouble. So he made a quick decision and shouted to the girls, "Flow back to the car and find me." Then he turned around and ran away from Flourishes and Blott's bookstore. Reporters and onlookers followed him away, and the bookstore instantly became empty, leaving only a few customers who were actually buying books and a bewildered Lockhart. This time, the girls finally saw Yeting's true fame. Hermione looked at the dejected Lockhart in front of her, and then at the door where Yeting left. She suddenly felt a sense of loss in her heart. She found that compared with Yeting, who had various achievements and had been helping her, Lockhart was actually not that great. She found that the fundamental reason why she admired Lockhart was because of his fame and handsomeness, but someone who was more handsome and worthy of her admiration was actually right next to her. Therefore, she and Zhang Qiu did not go forward to ask Lockhart for his autograph. They hurriedly left the bookstore after purchasing a set of books. In the last few days of the vacation, Yeting found strangely that Hermione and Zhang Qiu suddenly treated him much better than before. Ever since they got in the car, they would always have trouble with Yeting from time to time because of the presence of the other 2 children. Now, Hermione no longer always argued with Yeting on some academic issues, and Zhang Qiu was no longer jealous because Yeting said a few more words to the other 2. They even took the initiative to learn how to cook with magic from Yeting and prepare breakfast for him. Yeting curiously asked Pinella what happened, but the senior sister said nothing and just smiled and winked at him. So, he had no choice but to start enjoying this inexplicable tenderness with peace of mind. Happy time always passes quickly, and in a blink of an eye, the summer vacation is over. On the last night before school started, Yeting prepared a sumptuous candlelight dinner for everyone. Regardless of the fact that all the people present were minors, he took out red wine, which was Yeting's treasure from Russia, probably for diplomatic purposes. The gift I received during the trip was Romani Conti in 1945, which tasted quite good. Few of them had ever drunk red wine. It was the first time they drank such delicious red wine, and they were all a little greedy. After dinner, everyone was a little drunk. I don't know who made the first suggestion. They started playing cards in the living room, and the loser had to drink a drink as a penalty. In the end, everyone went crazy and the punishments became all kinds of weird. Early the next morning, Yeting discovered that the 4 of them had slept together in the living room all night. Each of them was wearing thin clothes and sleeping in a huddle. He also found many lip marks on his face. Obviously from different people. Fortunately, he did nothing further. But after that, the 4 of them were a little awkward with each other. Yeting himself sighed inwardly. This time he was a bit out of his element, and it would be difficult for them to get together like this next time. That afternoon, before they set off from Hogsmeade to Hogwarts, Yeting received that day's evening profit. Like many adult necromancers, Yeting has long-term subscriptions to newspapers such as Daily Prophet and Necromancer Weekly. In addition, he also subscribes to Shape-Shifting Technique, Spell Innovation, Practical Potions Encyclopedia, etc. Academic publications. Yeting did not read the newspaper immediately. He had to clean up his laboratory. When he returned to the living room, he found 3 girls gathered together, reading the Daily Prophet with great interest. What happened? Yeting didn't understand why these three girls got together just after he left for a while. They felt awkward talking to each other before. Harry and Ron, they secretly drove away Mr. Weasley's car. They actually dared to drive a flying car to Hogwarts. Hermione said loudly, the surprise in her tone obvious. Alan was shocked. How did Hermione know about this? Scanning the newspaper in Hermione's hand, he understood everything in an instant. He took the newspaper in his hand and saw the bold black headline at a glance, Ford Anglia can fly, Muggles are shocked. He continued to browse. 2 Muggles in London are convinced they saw something. An old 2.0 sedan flew over the post office building. In Norfolk at noon, Mrs. Hetty Bellis was drying laundry. Reported to the police by Mr. Angus Foley of Peebles. How did you know it was the two of them? He was still a little confused. Hermione and the Savior duo were just ordinary classmates and didn't even communicate with each other. It was impossible for her to understand all this like the original novel. This is a letter from Harry and Ron. Pinello handed Yeting a piece of paper. The letter mentioned that they could not pass platform 9 3/4, and hoped that Yeting could help find a way, otherwise they would have to drive. Weasley's car went to school. They didn't know you drove your car to Hogsmeade yet. They thought you were taking the train to school like before, so they sent you a letter asking for help. Unfortunately, it's too far away from London and the letter just arrived. Okay, Yeting smiled gloatingly, I hope they won't be scolded too badly tomorrow. Chapter 91. On the night when school started, news broke out in Hogwarts. Harry and Ron did not board the train, but took a flying Muggle car to the school. As a result, they actually hit the precious Whomping Willow. To the great joy of the little lions, because Harry and Ron's violation of school rules occurred before the opening ceremony, Gryffindor was not deducted points for it. However, Harry and Ron themselves were in a much worse mood, because they were seen by Muggles while driving, and the incident even made the news. In addition, Ron's staff was also broken in the accident. He could only tie up the 2 wand pieces with tape, but accidents still occurred frequently during the use of magic. Early the next morning, they discovered that the bad luck had just begun. Mrs. Weasley actually wrote them a howling letter, which was delivered to them by an owl during breakfast in front of the entire school. When Ron tore open the envelope with trembling hands, Neville immediately blocked his ears with his fingers, and Harry was confused by their actions. But you immediately knew why. At first he thought it was 04 exploding, and huge amounts of noise filled the entire auditorium and shook the dust off the ceiling. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they fire you for stealing a car. See how I deal with you then. You probably haven't thought about it at all. Your father and I found the car missing. How did you feel when you... It was Mrs. Weasley's shout, 100 times louder than usual, which made the plates and spoons on the table rattle, and the echoes from the surrounding stone walls were deafening. Everyone in the auditorium turned around to see who had received the shouting letter. Ron huddled in his chair and could only see a red forehead. I received Dumbledore's letter last night. Your father was so ashamed that he almost died. We worked hard to raise you, but we didn't expect you to do such a thing. You and Harry almost lost their lives. Harry kept listening for when his name came up. He tried his best to pretend not to hear the sound hitting his eardrums. That's so irritating, your dad will be under scrutiny at work and it's all your fault. If you don't behave according to the rules, we will take you back immediately. This letter made Harry and Ron feel ashamed in front of the entire school, and they became the laughing stock of everyone. When they were at Flourish and Blott's bookstore, Yeting once told Hermione and Zhongqiu that Gilderoy Lockhart was just a pretentious guy. His books had no practicality, and he himself was not a powerful necromancer. If he became the black magic defense professor at Hogwarts, so don't expect to learn anything normal. Hermione and Zhongqiu didn't believe this at first. They thought it was just Yeting's misunderstanding of Lockhart. But now, Gilderoy Lockhart only took the first black magic defense lesson, and his true nature was exposed. Let's take a look at what his class content is. After class, Professor Lockhart first gave a self-introduction that he thought was humorous, and then immediately arranged for everyone to take a 30-minute quiz. The quiz had 54 questions, and the questions were as follows. 1. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite color? 2. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's secret ambition? 3. What do you think is Gilderoy Lockhart's greatest achievement to date? And so on. There are 3 pages of paper, and the last question is 54. When is Gilderoy Lockhart's birthday? What is his ideal birthday gift? It was so ridiculous that he completely treated the classroom as his fan meeting. When he read the original work in the past, Yeting thought this guy was quite funny, but when he actually experienced all this, he felt that he had been fooled, so he tore the test paper into pieces on the spot and threw it in front of his face. The door leaves. Who can tell me who the gentleman was just now? When Yeting left, Lockhart's face turned pale. Yeting's behavior made him very embarrassed. After learning about Yeting's performance in the last semester, he said seriously to all the students in the audience, "When I saw him slamming the door and leaving, I immediately knew why he did that. Oh, definitely, this is all my fault, I really want to kick myself a few times." He paused and smiled at everyone. He wants to be the most popular person among the crowd. In fact, he has already tasted the sweetness of fame. He is smart, handsome, and good at studies. He also plays Quidditch well. At Hogwarts, whether he is a wizard witches still like him and envy him. Oh, this is indeed a good feeling. But now, I, Gilderoy Lockhart, 3rd Class Order of Merlin, honorary member of the Anti-Black Magic Alliance, 5-time winner Necromancer Weekly Most Charming Smile Award, such a famous and beloved person, I came to Hogwarts and immediately stole his limelight, making him no longer the one who attracted the most attention. He was jealous of me, so he immediately slammed the door and walked out. I can understand that feeling. I know it was rude of him to do this, but I forgave him because I was the one who made him jealous. Oh, this is what a terrible emotion. He should understand that he is still young now and will have plenty of time to become famous when he grows up. When I was 12 years old, I was as ordinary as he is now. In fact, I should say even more ordinary than him. After hearing what he said, Hermione couldn't bear it anymore. She stood up and said loudly, "Ting doesn't need to be jealous of you. His achievements and fame are much higher than yours." When he was 12 years old, he won the championship of the International Necromancer Chess Competition, and all Necromancer chess players were no match for him. He invented the mobile fireplace at a young age, for which the Ministry of Magic wanted to award him a Merlin Order of Merlin, 3rd class, but he never. If you don't show off like you do to 620, I think he is right, you are just a show-off and a boastful guy, and you are not worthy of being our black magic defense professor. After saying that, like Yeting, she ignored Lockhart's ugly expression and slammed the door. At the beginning of the first lesson, Lockhart lost his life. However, what happened next was even worse. For this lesson, he prepared a cage of Cornish elves, saying that he wanted to test the practical level of the little necromancers. He released the elves and wanted the students to catch them all. But as soon as they left the cage, the elves began to wreak havoc in the classroom and hid under the tables. At this time, Lockhart wanted to show off in front of the students and catch all the elves in the cage at one go to save the face he had lost. However, with an empty mind, he waved the wand for a long time but had no effect. In the end, even all the wands were thrown out of the window by the elf. In the end, as a professor of black magic defense, a 3rd Class Order of Merlin, an honorary member of the Anti-Black Magic Alliance, and a 5-time winner of the Necromancer Weekly Most Charming Smile Award, he had to fight with the little necromancers also hid under the podium. This simply revealed his true colors. Except for some girls, many young necromancers began to believe what Yeting and Hermione said. Lockhart was just a superficial and boastful guy. Chapter 92. After leaving the black magic defense class, Yeting walked all the way to an extremely ugly stone monster of huge amounts, then stopped and said the password to it, "Ice lemon juice." The monster suddenly came to life, jumped to the side, and the wall behind it cracked in half. Behind the wall was a spiral staircase that was moving slowly upward, like an escalator. As soon as Yeting stepped up, he heard a roar from behind and the wall closed again. He whirled higher and higher, higher and higher, until at last he saw a gleaming oak door in front of him, with a brass knocker in the shape of a griffin. He knocked on the knocker and the door opened. Inside was Dumbledore's principal's office. This was his second time here. This is a large, beautiful round room, full of all kinds of funny little sounds. On the table with slender legs, there were many strange silverwares placed, spinning and spitting out small puffs of smoke. The walls are covered with portraits of old male and female principals, all snoring gently in their respective frames. There was also a table of huge amounts in the room, with claw-shaped legs. On a shelf behind the table lay a tattered, wrinkled necromancer hat, a mess. Yeting saw Dumbledore behind the table, but he was immediately attracted by the bird at Dumbledore's feet. It looked like a turkey with half of its feathers plucked. The bird looked at him with sad eyes, and at the same time made a suffocating sound. Its eyes were lifeless, and its feathers kept falling from its tail. "Oh, A phoenix. Yeting looked at the bird and murmured, a phoenix preparing for nirvana is really rare. He turned to Dumbledore, Professor, can you call me when your phoenix is about to reach nirvana? I have never seen this scene before. Definitely, Mr. Yet, I'm glad you are interested in my fox. Dumbledore smiled and glanced at Phoenix, so, why did you come to me? I remember Mr. Ye should be staying in the Black Magic Defense class now. You let me stay in that liar's classroom. Yeting rolled his eyes disdainfully, you are wasting my time. In fact, this is exactly why I came here. He took a step forward, walked up to Dumbledore, and asked, I don't understand, why do you have to let such a boastful guy be the professor of Hogwarts? Can't you see? He doesn't even have he can't even cast the iron armor curse, so if he becomes a professor, he won't be able to teach us anything at all. Yes, Lockhart is indeed not a powerful necromancer, Dumbledore smiled and nodded. He has always liked to talk big and be in the limelight. He was like that back then. I still remember that when he entered school, he declared that he would make the Philosopher's Stone before graduation, and also planned to lead the England Quidditch team to win the World Cup, and eventually become the youngest Minister of Magic in the United Kingdom. Oh, are you familiar with Lockhart's past? Yeting asked doubtfully. Definitely, when he was in school, I had already served as the principal of Hogwarts. Dumbledore showed a nostalgic look. At that time, he was already very disliked. In order to get attention, he became a troublemaker. He once had his name carved on the Quidditch pitch in 20-foot-long letters, had his likeness projected into the sky like the Dark Mark, and mailed himself 800 a Valentine's Day card, and I still remember the day breakfast had to be cancelled because so much owl droppings and feathers fell into the cereal. By the time Lockhart graduated, we were all relieved. Then why would you let such a person come back as a professor? Yeting was a little surprised, because no one applied for this position? Or is it because of his fictitious experiences? You don't think that is true, do you? These experiences are indeed true, Dumbledore sighed, but they were not done by Lockhart. There were other people who accomplished those achievements. Lockhart traveled to various exotic places in the world, tricking accomplished necromancers into revealing their greatest deeds to Lockhart, who would, erase their memories after learning about them. Then, he would write a book about them, and took it as my own. However, among his deeds, there are two that I know very well, and I even know the original owners of two deeds, an old Armenian necromancer and a gap-mouthed witch, both of whom were captured by Lockhart. He erased his memory. But when I wanted to expose Lockhart, I found that I couldn't do it. I thought about it for a long time and didn't understand why. Because people need such an idol. Yeting replied, thinking of those annoying traffic stars in his previous life, people need such a perfect idol. He is handsome, has extraordinary achievements, and can satisfy all the fantasies of people, especially girls and housewives. Lockhart can fully meet these needs. I have to admit that he is indeed a good public lover. In addition, Lockhart can bring huge amounts of benefits to others, the media needs him to continue to create news, bookstores need him to sell expensive books, and organizations such as the Ministry of Magic and the Anti-Black Magic Alliance also need his presence. To prove to all necromancers that the necromancer world is beautiful and safe. In short, under such circumstances, Lockhart's position is unbreakable. Yes, you have indeed seen it more thoroughly than me. It was hard for me to figure it out at the time. Dumbledore nodded in agreement, cast an admiring look at Yeting, and continued, so I can only he invited Hogwarts. I believe that school is the best place to expose his scam. I believe that as long as Lockhart is put into such a normal school life, his scam will be exposed and he will get deserving punishment. After listening to Dumbledore's explanation, Yeting thought for a while and realized that this method was actually very effective. When Lockhart was taking professional courses such as Black Magic Defense, he always had to do it himself, and in this way he would show his weaknesses in front of the students. The students of Hogwarts are the future of the entire British wizarding world, and more importantly, they stay in the school and see Lockhart's true level with their own eyes. They are not easily fooled by the media, and their opinions can be expressed quickly. To change their parents' views, Lockhart's reputation will become worse and worse, and his value will gradually disappear. By that time, no one will speak for him except a few idiot fans. Professor Dumbledore's purpose is it can be achieved, if there were no accidents like the Chamber of Secrets and the Basilisk in the original work, then Lockhart's knot might be like this. Your idea is indeed good, but please don't let me stay in the same room with him anymore, and the same goes for my friends. Okay, I agree to your request, Dumbledore said. If you encounter a black magic defense class, you can do whatever you want, but don't tell others. Chapter 93. After getting Dumbledore's permission, Yeting began to appear in other places in the castle during the black magic defense class openly. And soon, his 3 female friends followed suit. However, although Gilderoy Lockhart is a parallel importer, Yeting still believes that the black magic defense course is a very important course, especially during this period. In the next few years, Voldemort's minions will reappear, resurrect their leader, and the necromancer world will once again be plunged into chaos. Take this school year for example. The Chamber of Secrets was opened again, and the basilisk was released, killing people everywhere in Hogwarts. In the original work, even Hermione and Penelope were affected by the trick. If not for luck, they would not have been petrified, but actually killed by the basilisk. At this time, he was faced with an unreliable black magic defense professor like Lockhart. Yeting really had no choice but to take action himself. In fact, Yeting had wanted to teach black magic defense to his female friends since last semester. However, due to various research and studies that took up a lot of his time, and at that time he himself it's just that I have just entered school, and I may not be that proficient in mastering magic. It may mislead others, so this matter will be left alone. But it's different now. Today's Yeting is quite proficient in various magics used in combat. He has also experienced fighting against fire dragons and 2 head-on battles against Quirrell/Voldemort. Although there are not many actual combats, his opponents are all. He is not a nobody, but a person who truly stands at the pinnacle of power in the necromancer world. It can be said that he already has some experience in using magic to fight, and it is more than enough to become a real black magic defense teacher. After the plan was made, Yeting went to ask the 3 girls for their opinions. Penelope was quite in favor of the idea. At least it was suitable for the NEWT exam she would face this school year. The ultimate necromancer exam helps a lot. The diligent Hermione always wanted to learn more, and Yeting's opinions coincided with hers. After showing up in Lockhart's class, Yeting was very interested in this matter. She felt that her love for her was not in vain. She had long wanted to find a way to learn the knowledge of black magic defense on her own, and now that the genius Yeting came to teach her, she was a little surprised. What surprised Yeting was that even Zhangqiu readily agreed, which made the lines he had prepared to use to persuade her seem in vain. Zhangqiu has never been a brave person. Rather than taking risks on campus and fighting with magic, she yearns more for the life of an ordinary middle school girl and has no lofty ambitions. Yeting was very curious as to why she would make this decision. Actually, since that incident last semester, I started to want to learn how to fight. When she spoke to Yeting, her eyes kept staring at the ground. At that time, I had to watch you stand in front of everyone. Brave, I was fighting Professor Quirrell, but I could only run away in panic, fearing that I would hold you back. Every time I think of you fighting alone, to be honest, I feel worried and guilty, and I don't want to go on like this anymore. At the end of the sentence, her voice became smaller and smaller, apparently because she felt that she expressed too much and would let the other party see her true thoughts. However, she still mustered up the courage, looked directly into Yeting's eyes, and said the last words. Next time you encounter danger, I will definitely stand by your side. After saying that, she left with a blushing face. Unknowingly, even Zhangqiu had such an awareness, which made Yeting feel warm. His influence and bond with the world have become deeper and deeper, and the people and things he knows are gradually different from those in the original work. Because of his existence, everything is changing. The girls around him are starting to work hard. This made Yeting even more determined to move forward. After all, there was already a really important person beside him who needed to be protected, and he had to become stronger. Soon, Yeting's Black Magic Defense Study Group was established. The teacher was him, and the group members were Penelope, Zhangqiu and Hermione. Since the 4 of them were Ravenclaw students, the learning venue was easy. Coordination. After dinner every day, Yeting would teach the 3 girls a series of theoretical courses by the fire in the Ravenclaw lounge, accompanied by tea, starting with how to deal with various dark creatures. The teaching materials included magic defense theory, dark power, self-defense guide, etc. Yejian will even assign some after-school homework. On weekends, the classroom will be moved to the response center, where Yeting will give practical lessons to the girls. The content is mainly about learning the magic spells used in battle, such as the disarming spell, the armor spell, the stun spell, crushing spell, or something like that. In fact, Yeting's theoretical teaching in the Ravenclaw Lounge was no longer just a class for 3 people from the first class. 0. Please give me flowers. His 3 roommates, Anthony, Terry, and Michael, were the first to listen in. Since they were Yeting's roommates, they knew and were most familiar with this genius who got along day and night. They were very happy to get Yeting guidance. Then there are many other Ravenclaw students. Zhangchu's friend Marietta sometimes comes together, and many students from the same class as Yeting gradually join in. After discovering that Ravenclaw's prefect Pinello was also one of the students, many senior Ravenclaw students also put down their dignity and became students in this small classroom. Finally, as everyone gradually understood the nature of Lockhart's incompetence, many young necromancers from other colleges also came here because compared to Lockhart, Yeting was considered a truly qualified teacher. But they are often blocked by questions from the door knocker of the Ravenclaw Lounge, and only a few necromancers are lucky enough to get a glimpse of it. All the young necromancers who have listened to his class said that with Yeting's ability, he is indeed qualified to be their black magic defense professor, because not only does he have enough profound knowledge, but the content of his lectures is also humorous and can explain the profound things in simple terms. It is not the type to follow the textbook. In this case, all the observers have learned a lot. Some senior students even claimed that Yeting is the best black magic defense teacher they have ever seen, even Professor Quirrell. None of his previous predecessors could speak as well as him. Under this situation, some young necromancers also proposed to let Yeting be their black magic defense class professor. But Yeting decisively refused. "I haven't lived enough yet." He explained half-jokingly, "Hogwarts changes a black magic defense professor every year, and all new black magic defense professors have accidents within a year. Obviously, this position is cursed, and I don't want to touch it." But no matter what, the little necromancers at Hogwarts have one more thing to admire Yeting. The 4th update will be resumed tomorrow. If you want the author to get more updates, you can get 5,000 rewards, 3,000 flowers, 1,000 evaluation votes or 20 monthly votes. Finally, please give me flowers, rewards, comments, and tickets. Thank you Deagia. Chapter 94. 2 weeks after the start of the new semester, Yeting had completed the first step of becoming an animagus. He happily took out the mandrake blades from his mouth and put them into the crystal bottle. To be honest, this month was really a torment for him. Not everyone can hold a leaf in their mouth for a whole month. After completing the production of the animagus mixture, Yeting once again sneaked into the Forbidden Forest and buried the bottle of mixture under a tall tree, with his unicorn Lori taking care of it. Now, he just needs to wait for the next storm to come, and by then, he can try to become an animagus. In addition, in a few days, Yeting will face another major event. In order to reward him for inventing the mobile fireplace technology, the Ministry of Magic will award him the 3rd-class medal of the Order of Merlin. In fact, he is also the youngest recipient of the medal in the history of the Ministry of Magic. Therefore, on the day when the medal 050 was awarded, there were especially many people who came to attend the ceremony. Everyone wanted to see this youngest medalist. What does the winner look like? The reporters wanted to seize this opportunity to conduct an interview with Yeting. You know, since the International Necromancer Chess Competition, no media was able to interview Yeting. No one knew where he was hiding. Even if they accidentally discovered him at Flourishes and Blott's bookstore, they still found nothing. So in this award ceremony, they were able to interview Yeting. Best chance. However, this award ceremony disappointed all reporters. After reading his acceptance speech, Yeting immediately returned to the backstage, and then completely disappeared from the scene. He also did not attend the banquet after the ceremony. No one knew where he had gone, and reporters once again missed Yeting. Time has arrived before Halloween. In the past 2 months, a major event has happened in the Muggle world. Under the leadership of George Soros's Quantum Fund, international hot money has made waves in Europe and successfully shorted the pound. The Bank of England suffered heavy losses, but Yeting also made a fortune from this incident. His total assets successfully reached $15 million. As long as the Christmas holiday comes, he can withdraw the money. After the Halloween dinner, Yeting and the well-fed necromancers returned to their respective college lounges. However, when passing through the corridor on the 2nd floor, he suddenly found that the surroundings became silent, and there were no more necromancers talking and joking. The sound was gone. Yeting looked forward and saw that the scene in the corridor was quite terrifying. between the two windows, on the wall 1 foot high from the ground, there were some writings scrawled on it, glimmering under the light of the burning torch. The secret room has been opened, and those who are enemies of the heir should be alert. Under the slogan, Mrs. Norris's tail was hanging on the bracket of the torch, her body was as stiff as a board, her eyes were wide open and staring. Yeting could tell at a glance that it was petrified. At the moment, Harry Potter and Ron Weasley were standing blankly next to Mrs. Norris. They probably attended the death anniversary party of nearly headless Nick on their way back as in the original book. Saw all this, and then just happened to be blocked in the hallway by the little necromancers who were finishing the Halloween dinner. They were really unlucky, and now the yellow mud fell into their crotches. There was silence all around. Suddenly, a sharp shout broke the silence, "Those who are enemies of the heir, be careful. You are next, Mudblood. It's Draco Malfoy." He had already pushed his way to the front of the crowd, his cold eyes became vivid, and his usually bloodless face turned red. He looked at the still and stiff cat hanging there, with a sinister smile on his face. He is indeed a nasty guy. What happened here? What happened? Filch, no doubt attracted by Malfoy's shout, shouldered his way through the crowd. Then he saw Mrs. Norris, and he stumbled back a few steps, grabbing his face with his hands in horror. "My cat! My cat! What's wrong with Mrs. Norris?" he screamed. Then his bulging eyes caught Harry's eye. "You," he screamed, "you! You killed my cat! You killed it! I'm going to kill you! I'm going to!" He threw himself at the hapless Harry Potter. Definitely, he was stopped quickly, and Dumbledore and the professors arrived on the scene just in time to take away Harry, Ron, and Filch, thus ending the farce. After that, the conversation among the young necromancers immediately turned to the so-called heir in the secret room. After returning to the lounge, it was time for Yeting's black magic defense class again. "Ting, why don't you tell everyone about the heir and the Chamber of Secrets in this class?" Hermione couldn't wait to suggest as soon as she sat down by the stove. Everyone else agreed with this opinion. What just happened was really frightening, and they were eager to find some sense of security. Yeting nodded calmly and started his course. "Before telling the story of the secret room, first I want to make 2 points. Yeting looked around at the small necromancers with worried faces and said loudly, "First, Mrs. Loris did not die, she was just petrified, so the whole body is stiff, as if frozen, and the petrified state can be released. Who can tell me how to release the petrified state?" Hermione immediately raised her hand. Even in Yeting's private black magic defense class, she was still willing to answer questions proactively. "Miss Granger. It's a resurrection potion. A resurrection potion made from mandrake can lift petrification." "Exactly," Yeting smiled at her, "it's a pity that I can't give points to Ravenclaw, but I can tell you good news. I still remember that in the herbal medicine class at the beginning of school, we changed the mandrake pot, isn't it? Those mandrakes will mature in a while, and Mrs. Norris will be able to return to normal by then, so there is no need to worry." He saw that everyone was relieved. It was not that they were worried about Mrs. Norris, but because everyone was worried that they were the ones being transformed. Then, Yeting came up with a second conclusion: the murderer who caused the petrification cannot be Harry Potter, because it is impossible for ordinary petrification spells to achieve such a petrification effect. Someone who can produce such a result must be very special. Powerful black magic, and with Mr. Potter's ability, it is obvious that he cannot do this, he is too weak. There was a burst of laughter around him. If Harry Potter were here, he would definitely not be happy because Yeting defended him like this. "Then who did it?" someone asked loudly below. "Is it Snape? Or the heir of Slytherin? Is it the monster in the secret room? Come on, tell me, Mr. Yet, tell me." So Yeting talked about his views on the Chamber of Secrets and the heir of Slytherin. Asking for flowers, monthly tickets, evaluation votes, and rewards. Chapter 95. As we all know, Hogwarts was founded more than 1,000 years ago. The founders were the 4 greatest male and female necromancers of the time. The 4 houses are named after them: Godric Gryffindor, Hercules Elga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Together they built this castle away from the prying eyes of Muggles, because at that time, ordinary people were afraid magic, male and female necromancers suffer a lot of persecution. Yeting paused, looked around, and continued, "In the first few years, the founders worked together harmoniously, looking for young people with magical abilities and bringing them to the castle to train them. However, slowly, there were differences between them. The rift between Slytherin and the others was growing. Slytherin wanted Hogwarts to be more selective when recruiting students. He believed that magical education should be limited to purely magical families. He was unwilling to accept Muggle-born children, thinking that they were unreliable. After some days, Slytherin and Gryffindor had a fierce quarrel over this issue, and then Slytherin left the school. "That's what reliable historical sources tell us," he said, "but these pure facts are obscured by bizarre legends about the Chamber of Secrets. The story says that Slytherin built a secret room in the castle. The other founders knew nothing about this. According to this legend, Slytherin sealed the Chamber of Secrets so that no one could open it until his true heir came to the school. Only that heir could open the chamber and release the horrors within, allowing it to purify the school. To eliminate all those who are not worthy of learning magic. Many people think that the Chamber of Secrets is just a legend." Yeting glanced at him, and everyone continued to stare at him, hoping that he would continue talking, "But what I want to tell you is that the Chamber of Secrets has actually been opened, and all parties involved are familiar to everyone. I'm going to tell you another story." He cleared his throat. "This happened 50 years ago. At that time, monsters attacked people in Hogwarts. Fortunately, only students were injured. But this attack intensified, eventually causing the death of a girl. Due to too many attacks, Hogwarts was about to be closed down, but at this time, a student named Tom Riddle stepped forward and he caught the guy who opened the Chamber of Secrets was expelled, but for the sake of the reputation of Hogwarts, the then principal Professor Dippet announced that the girl died in an accident, and Tom Riddle received a special contribution to the school prize." Hearing this, in a photo on the wall, Armando Dippet covered his face in shame. Hermione's hands were in the air again. "Excuse me, what is the name of the guy who opened the secret room? What monster did he summon?" I said, "You are all familiar with these parties." Yeting winked at Hermione mysteriously. "The name of the person who was expelled for opening the Chamber of Secrets is Rubeus Hagrid, and his monster is a huge amounts of eight-eyed spider. All the eight-eyed spiders in the Forbidden Forest today are its descendants." There was an uproar in the lounge immediately. "It's Hagrid. How is this possible? I have long said that the guy with giant blood has bad intentions. Why did Dumbledore let him stay at school?" It was Hermione again who raised her hand. "I think it's impossible for Hagrid to open the Chamber of Secrets. He's not good at black magic at all. It's also impossible for the eight-eyed spider to be the monster in the Chamber of Secrets, because it can only poison people to death but can't petrify them. Are you doing this?" "Wrong." Hermione's analysis was well-founded, and everyone suddenly became quiet and turned their questioning eyes to Yeting. Definitely, I also think Hagrid will not be the heir of Slytherin. Professor Armando must have made a mistake." Yeting nodded and gave Hermione an approving look. "Slytherin will never choose a person like Hagrid as his heir. I won't say why specifically, so the real heir is someone else. At this point, we should look back at the one who reported Hagrid. Man, his full name is Tom Marvolo Riddle. He used his wand to write the name Tom Marvolo Riddle in the air. Tom_Marvolo_Riddle, did you see any clues?" Everyone shook their heads. So Yeting waved his hand, and the letters were immediately rearranged and combined to form a sentence: "I am Voldemort. I_am_Lord_Voldemort." This change made everyone take a breath of cold air. The lounge fell silent briefly. After a while, Pinello asked excitedly, "You mean, Tom Riddle is the young Voldemort?" "You are right," Yeting nodded. "In fact, everyone can know this if they do a little research on the history of Hogwarts. So, do you understand what the truth is? It was the mysterious man who opened the Chamber of Secrets and framed Hagrid. Am I right?" Hermione said quickly. "That's absolutely correct. I think the truth is like this," Yeting sighed. "Unfortunately, the records from 50 years ago did not tell us how the secret room was opened. What is the real monster in the secret room? There may not be any monster at all. Everything was done by the Dark Lord himself. However, the clues still exist, because you are also familiar with the third protagonist in this matter, and you can see her often. The third party involved. Who is that? Apart from Hagrid and the mysterious man, no one else was mentioned just now. Is it Principal Dippet? I often see him in photos." Seeing everyone making different guesses, Yeting felt a little funny, but he still announced the answer. "The third protagonist is the girl who died. She is still in the place where she died, in the girls' bathroom on the second floor. She is moaning Myrtle. After saying that, he ended the course and returned to his dormitory. Yeting's analysis caused a sensation in Hogwarts. All the little necromancers kept asking the professors questions to confirm the authenticity of the matter. Most people think Yeting is right. Even the little Slytherin snakes think that Hagrid cannot be the heir of Slytherin. However, Hagrid, as the person involved, is still pushed to the forefront. Even as the ghost of Moaning Myrtle is no exception, she has to be asked how did you die, dozens of times a day. Chapter 96. Although as a living person, when asking this question to a ghost, you will feel that you are exposing someone else's scars, but as a ghost, Moaning Myrtle still likes people to ask her this question, and every time she answers, seems a little proud. Ouch, that's terrible, she told the questioner with relish, it happened right here. I died in this bathroom. I remember it very clearly. At that time Olive Humbay laughed at me for wearing glasses like a four-eyed dog, so I hid here. I locked the door and cried inside, when suddenly I heard someone come in. What they said was funny. I think it must be another language. But what annoyed me the most was that I heard a boy's voice talking. So I opened the door, yelled at him to go away, went to my boy's room, and then... Myrtle thought she was great and puffed up her chest, her face radiant. I died. At that time, I only remember seeing a pair of scary big yellow eyes. My whole body seemed to be caught, and then I came back. You know, I wanted to settle the score with Olive Humbay. Oh, she regretted making fun of me for wearing glasses. Soon, Dumbledore found Yeting, who came to the principal's office for the third time. I have to say that your words have brought us a lot of trouble, kid. Dumbledore frowned, his tone was a little stern. Everyone is concerned about what happened 50 years ago. Everyone is worried about the heir of Slytherin, and you make people in Hogwarts panic. But what I said is right, isn't it? Yeting looked directly at Dumbledore with a strong look. Tom is Voldemort, Hagrid was wronged, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened before, and now it is very likely to be opened again. What I said is right, isn't it? Yes, what you said is right. Faced with such a look, Dumbledore softened his words, but you shouldn't say all this. This is not what the students of Hogwarts should worry about. Things, you got them all involved. I didn't involve them. In fact, all the students are already in danger. Yeting's voice became louder and louder. There is a monster wandering around the Hogwarts castle every day, and we are still you have to go to class every day. Do you want another Myrtle to show up? Dumbledore sighed deeply. He was speechless by Yeting and had to sink himself deeply into the seat behind him. Now his expression was a little sluggish, which made Yeting feel for the first time that he was actually an old man. What you said is correct, everything is correct. But we have been unable to do anything about it. I have also conducted a thorough inspection of Hogwarts, but in the end I found nothing. Even now I don't know what the monster is. I don't know why the Chamber of Secrets opened again after Riddle left. If you really want to completely prevent accidents, the only way is to temporarily close Hogwarts, but this will not help at all in finding the Chamber of Secrets and monsters. Now, I have no choice but to strengthen patrols. In the end, Yeting and Dumbledore broke up on bad terms. Yeting did not immediately go to Ginny Weasley to find Tom Riddle's diary, although he knew that as long as he destroyed the diary with strong fire, the crisis from the Chamber of Secrets would be immediately resolved. But he did not do this. He did not forget his other goal in this school year, to study the basilisk. He had to wait for this diary to summon the basilisk. The powerful magical creature such as the basilisk, whether in research, or in terms of materials, it can bring great help to Yeting. Definitely, he will not immediately go to trouble the basilisk. Although he is strong enough, he is not strong enough to flatten and round the basilisk. The two are evenly matched at best. Before taking action against the basilisk, he must first spend time making some magic props, including props to protect against the basilisk's deadly sight, potions that can detoxify, and weapons that can inflict damage to the basilisk. This is the magician. Not only victory relies only on magic, intelligence and creativity are also part of their ability. Since the last time he dealt with the fire dragon, Yeting has deeply realized that before his magic power can crush these magical creatures, he needs to create a physical output weapon that can break through the defenses of these monsters. He cannot easily do this with magic alone. To kill these creatures with strong magic resistance, his strategy can only be to use magic to control them, and then use physical attacks to kill them. Not long after Halloween, the annual Quidditch Cup that little necromancers have been waiting for will begin again. A few days before the training started, Yeting made a series of modifications to Zhongchu's broomstick at Zhongchu's request. No, this was no longer a modification, but a completely new broomstick, except for the handle, which is still the same as before. All other accessories have been replaced by Yeting, even the invisible seat. Yeting reshaped the broom handle and engraved it with beautiful and symbolic patterns. He also erased all the original spells on the broom, then reapplied a more powerful spell, and finally gave it another. The broom is equipped with a pedal made of fairy silverware. In this way, although the performance of Zhongchu's broom is not as good as that of Sun Lun, it can be regarded as completely surpassing all other brooms. The reason for using fairy silverware, because the broom's ultimate speed is too fast and may even cause it to disintegrate in the air. Zhongchu is very satisfied with this broom and will not feel worried when facing Slytherin's 7 Nimbus 2001. Yes, in order to make Draco Malfoy the new Seeker of the Slytherin team, the Malfoy family donated 7 of the latest models of Nimbus 2001 to the Academy in one fell swoop, which was really a generous gesture. But the Gryffindor team does not have an alchemy master like Yeting to help make brooms. In the first game of the Quidditch Cup between Gryffindor and Slytherin, they had to use a bunch of old brooms to fight against Slytherin's Nimbus 2001. The best broom among them was Harry's Nimbus 2000, but it is still slightly inferior to higher model brooms. To make matters worse, it rained heavily during the game, and Harry was targeted by a bludger. The bludger lost control during the game. It was staring at Harry alone and would not stop until it knocked him off the broom. Faced with such pressure, Harry did not give up. Instead, he fought hard and was hit by an out-of-control bludger. He caught the golden snitch one step ahead of Malfoy, and finally suffered a fracture at the cost of being hit. Successfully won the competition. But Yeting didn't see all this because he left in the middle of the game. It rained heavily during this competition, accompanied by lightning and thunder. This was the first thunderstorm since the start of school, which made Yeting realize that the time had come for him to become an animagus. So, he quickly left the scene and flew towards the Forbidden Forest on the sun wheel in the rain. Before leaving, he did not forget to ask Hermione to find Professor McGonagall for him, because the process of animagus transformation was too dangerous. He needed Professor McGonagall to help him. Chapter 97. The place Yeting agreed with Professor McGonagall was near Hagrid's hut. When he took the blood-red potion and rode the sun wheel out of the Forbidden Forest, he found that the professor had been waiting there for a long time. "Why didn't you tell me before you learned the animagus?" As soon as he saw Yeting, Professor McGonagall scolded him severely. "For your age, the animagus is too dangerous. You can definitely wait a few years before trying again." But when he saw the magic potion in Yeting's hand, she knew that it was too late to persuade him. She could only sigh and soften her tone. "Well, with your level of shape-shifting, it's not too early to practice animagus, and at least you know to call me before the first shape-shifting." She suddenly turned into a spotted cat in the rain. The cat had glasses-shaped patterns on its eye sockets. Then she changed back to her original form and introduced to Yeting, "Animagus is a kind of animal that does not require the support of a wand. The shape-shifting spell is actually a kind of wandless magic, which has the same shortcomings as wandless magic. It is difficult to cast, and if the operation is not accurate enough, it can easily cause unexpected consequences." She warned sternly, because it is a shape-shifting magic that acts on one's own body. 457 Animagus is very dangerous. Just practicing it carries huge amounts of risks. It not only requires powerful magic, but also requires sophisticated control, the ability and strong will to prevent the process of shape-shifting practice from causing irreparable consequences. Yeting nodded towards Professor McGonagall and said in a very affirmative tone, "I'm completely prepared. Agmanes won't be able to trouble me." "Okay." Professor McGonagall understood Yeting's determination. "You can start now. Point the tip of the wand to the heart, recite the incantation Amato, Animo, Animato, Animagus, and then apply the magic potion." When the bright red potion entered his abdomen, Yeting gradually felt a sharp pain all over his body, as if all his muscles were about to break into pieces. He gritted his teeth and tried to hold on. Immediately afterwards, he suddenly felt 2 different violent heartbeats in his chest. The smaller one was very familiar to him and he could hear such a sound whenever he exercised violently, but the other heartbeat was larger and quite rapid. With every beat of the second heartbeat, he could feel the powerful magic power emerging from the center of his chest. Along with the exciting blood, he had vaguely guessed that what kind of creature is an animagus. Sure enough, the image of a dragon appeared in his mind. That image was different from the wyvern-like fire dragon in the world of Harry Potter, but a real dragon that had appeared in all major wizarding worlds. It has a body like a lion, with a majestic and magnificent dragon head connected to its long and rough neck. It has horns and thorns on its head, and its long tail winds downwards. It walks on 4 powerful legs and flies with a pair of giant bat-like wings. Its body is covered with fine scales. The scales are platinum gold, but the surface is translucent and glows like diamonds. Gloss. The image of this dragon is not that big, only about 4 or 5 meters long, but its appearance is elegant and majestic. It is not difficult to imagine what a spectacular sight it will be when it fully grows into a giant beast that is tens or hundreds of meters long. Dragon is indeed a powerful creature, and it can stand firmly at the top of the species even in the magical world. However, when the image of dragon appeared in Yeting's mind, his heart immediately thumped. Because the necromancers Agamanis cannot shapeshift into magical creatures, all animagus attempts to become magical creatures have failed, and often have unpredictable consequences. Yeting believes that this is due to the difference in ordinary creatures. There is no magic power, but magical creatures are born with magic power, and it is completely different from the magic power of necromancers. In other words, it is impossible for his animagus to succeed until the magic problem is solved. However, now that he has drank the potion and recited the spell, it is too late to stop the change. He could already feel the changes in his body. Beautiful platinum gold scales have appeared on the surface of his body, and the shape of his body's bones is also constantly changing. His claws began to lengthen, his teeth became sharper, and spikes gradually appeared on his back. What made him most uncomfortable was that something seemed to be growing on his shoulder blades and tailbone. He felt as if he had 2 more arms, and there was a tail-like feeling at the end of his spine. He felt that his thoughts were also changing. He began to become arrogant, pursue desires, and advocate power. Various emotions that conflicted with his original thoughts poured into his spirit. Yeting heard that ordinary animagus need to fight against the feeling of wildness and low intelligence when practicing. From this point of view, there is still some benefit to transforming into a dragon, as long as their intelligence is fine. But soon he no longer felt so. He discovered that shape-shifting into a dragon was far more mentally challenging to him than shape-shifting into a normal creature. The strong dragon thoughts began to impact his soul, which forced him to focus on resisting this feeling. Once he surrenders to this and accepts this temptation, he will completely degenerate into a dragon, a crazy dragon with only crazy desires in his heart. However, this extreme emotion filled with arrogance, jealousy, rage, laziness, greed, gluttony, and lust tempted him all the time. In the Bible, the ancient dragon is Satan, and Satan is the symbol of the 7 deadly sins. The dragon is such an image. It represents the ultimate original sin and the ultimate power. This power constantly seduces Yeting. It is like the instigation of the devil and the whispers of hell. Even a person with a firm mind cannot resist it. Escape from destruction. Just like Adam and Eve could not refuse the temptation of the ancient snake is Satan, and Satan is the ancient dragon. The origin of human beings determines that they cannot maintain themselves under such temptation. Even Lucifer, the glorious deputy king of heaven, could not apply for arrogance and eventually fell into hell. But Yeting actually persisted. At this time, his will seemed to have no limit, and he persisted under the temptation of completely falling into the dragon clan. If you want to describe it, Yeting feels like his soul is walking on a tightrope over an abyss, and the abyss still has a great attraction for him. His soul must maintain balance in this attraction and keep moving forward. Except for the experience of drifting in the time and space tunnel, this is probably the desperate situation with the lowest survival rate in the world. However, he still forced himself to calm down and moved forward with difficulty. Please give me flowers, monthly tickets, reviews, and rewards. Thank you for your support. Chapter 98. At Yeting's invitation, Professor McGonagall had to rush to the edge of the Forbidden Forest to find her most protégé before her college's Quidditch match ended. Because, her favorite disciple actually made preparations beforehand and started his first animagus shape-shifting today. Professor McGonagall scolded him severely, but finally agreed to guide him in animagus shape-shifting. So, the student started animagus shape-shifting in front of Professor McGonagall. Until this time, Professor McGonagall thought that this was just an ordinary animagus's first shape-shifting. Although it was a bit dangerous, it was generally not very difficult based on the student's ability. When beautiful scales appeared on Yeting's body, and his claws and teeth began to change, Professor McGonagall thought his animagus was some kind of rare lizard, or more exaggeratedly, it might be some kind of dinosaur. Anima. It is very rare for a magus to transform into an extinct prehistoric creature, but it is not impossible. However, who could have expected that Yeting would actually grow wings on his back and a tail on the back? He did not turn into a reptile, nor was he a fire dragon whose wings and vines were integrated. Truly turned into a dragon. That is far beyond the fire dragon, a magical creature that only exists in legends even in the necromancer world. If the Ministry of Magic were to grade the danger of dragon, the fire dragon would be the highest XXXXX level, but even 10 more XS for dragon would not be enough. But it is precisely because of the power of dragon that Professor McGonagall is particularly worried. There is no precedent for transforming into a magical creature, and what Yeting wants to transform into is a dragon that is far beyond ordinary magical creatures. She does not think Yeting will succeed, and she does not looking forward to his success. She only prayed that Yeting could successfully transform back into human form in the end. Instead of having any unexpected consequences, the most likely death was due to exhaustion of magic power. In fact, Ye Zheng was troubled by Bao. At the moment, not only was his soul struggling to resist the temptation of the abyss, but his body was also undergoing inhuman torture. The huge demand for magic power from transforming into dragon was constantly squeezing his body and spirit, and the conflict of magic power between dragon and necromancer also made every part of his body in pain. At the moment, he felt as if he was being stabbed, and 3,600 knives were struck at the same time. If this feeling was acting on the physical body, then his pain nerves would be completely numb, but this feeling was not acting on the physical body, but on the spirit, so he had to feel all the pain completely. In other words, he had to walk a tightrope while being harassed. The mental fatigue alone made him feel exhausted. But he must walk this tightrope completely before his magic power is exhausted. This forced him to continuously squeeze his body while also forcibly squeezing his soul. Finally, with extremely strong perseverance, he forcibly regained his will before dying due to exhaustion of magic power. In Professor McGonagall's eyes, the dragon, which was struggling painfully on the ground, finally slowly opened its eyes. It was a clear and rational look, but it revealed strength and struggle. This look was quite familiar to her, and she could be sure that the creature in front of her was still her favorite disciple. His consciousness had not sunk, and he had not fallen to the point of thinking that he was another creature. Professor McGonagall was finally able to relax. She waved her wand and forcibly removed Yeting's Agmanese shape-shifting. Fortunately, Yeting cannot truly successfully shape-shift into dragon, otherwise her spell would be impossible to take effect on Yeting. Dragon's appearance slowly began to shrink, its scales and claws gradually disappeared, its wings and tail continued to shorten, and finally Yeting finally returned to his human appearance. I saw him lying on the ground in a panic, sweating profusely, and his muscles were constantly twitching. Professor McGonagall quickly helped him up and asked him to sit down with his back against a big tree. After a while, Yeting regained his strength slightly. Seeing him open his eyes, Professor McGonagall immediately asked with concern, "How are you? Are you okay?" "It's not that good. I've used up all my physical strength and magic power, and my whole body hurts." Yeting slowly shook his head. The animagus is indeed more difficult than imagined. After the shape-shifting is successful, I must try my best. Keep your consciousness from being swallowed up by the temptation to become dragon. That crazy and powerful feeling is really hard to refuse. But you still refused, didn't you? McGonagall looked at him gently. You are a strong child, I can imagine the difficulties you faced at that time, but you still came out, you are good. She sighed and said to Yeting, "Now, you need to go to Ms. Poppy's with me for a good checkup, and then rest for a day or two. 0, please give me flowers. But I just want to sleep now." Yeting reluctantly followed Professor McGonagall towards the castle, but the endless mental exhaustion might swallow him up at any time. He had been tempted for too long, and was mentally exhausted. The pain was too great. He followed Professor McGonagall unconsciously all the way to the infirmary. As soon as he touched the hospital bed, he collapsed immediately. This is the second time he has been admitted to the ward since arriving at Hogwarts. The feeling of lying on the hospital bed was not good, because it made him clearly perceive his powerlessness and weakness. But there are always times when people are powerless and weak. They cannot always be strong or fearless. Fortunately, there were still a few girls who were willing to stay by his side when he was weak, and his friends, including 3 roommates, the Weasley twins, and Harry, who was hospitalized at the same time as him. He broke a bone during the Quidditch match, and Gilderoy Lockhart took the initiative to reattach the bone for him. As a result, his poor magic removed all the bones in Harry's arm, and he had to be admitted to the ward. As well as his good friend Ron, his teammates on the Quidditch team, many Ravenclaw students who listened to his lessons, and his crush all took turns to visit him, which made him feel warm. At the same time, he also heard a new news. Just last night, Harry Potter's little fan Colin Creevey was petrified on the way back after visiting Harry. This further proved that the Chamber of Secrets had been being turned on. The heir of Slytherin took action at Hogwarts. It was such a troubled time, and he needed to become stronger quickly. One day later, Yeting left the ward. He was originally fine, but his magic power and physical strength were exhausted. Professor McGonagall called him to her office and tried to persuade Yeting to give up Dragon, the animagus, and switch to an ordinary animal. "I think Dragon is quite suitable for me." Yeting refused. "I have roughly understood why shape-shifting failed. I will find a way to succeed. I will remember to tell you when I am ready again." "Okay," Professor McGonagall sighed. She couldn't resist him and had to reluctantly agree to Yeting's choice. "But you must promise to call me before shape-shifting next time. You are the best I have ever taught, student. I don't want to lose you." 3. Chapter 99. Yeting said that there is a way to solve the problem of being unable to shape-shift into a dragon, but this is actually not accurate because he only had a rough guess. In many worlds, there are actually settings where humans can transform into dragons. In these settings, Yeting can get a glimpse of the nature of dragons and understand how to transform from humans into dragons. The most typical ones are several worlds with the theme of people turning into dragons. The first one is Dragon. In this world, the essence of dragons lies in blood. The mixture of human and dragon is called a hybrid, and the higher the purity of the dragon blood of the hybrid, the closer it will be to dragons. Definitely the qualifications and people with insufficient will become dead pool. The temptation that Yeting received when he transformed was similar to the depraved temptation that hybrids received when they purified dragon blood in dragon, that is, the depraved temptation they received when they were highly depleted of blood. The level of that temptation was definitely at least as high as the blood exploded 4 times. The second one is 127 Fairy Tale. In this world, the essence of dragons lies in knowledge, which is dragon-slaying magic. A magician who learns dragon-slaying magic will become a dragon when he reaches a certain level. And the biggest boss in this world, the Black Feather of the End, the Black Dragon Akuno Lokia, is the first human-turned dragon in history. The third is the Elder Scrolls. In this world, the essence of dragons lies in the soul. The reason why the so-called Dragonborn is regarded as the same kind by dragons is because he possesses the soul of a dragon, and the Dragonborn can further become stronger by absorbing the dragon's soul. At the same time, if the dragon's body loses its dragon soul, then it will only a handful of dead bones remained. Definitely, there are many other worlds with similar settings. For example, in the moon-shaped world, the dragon's heart can bring the power of the dragon to people. For example, King Arthur Altoya Pendragon, she is because possessing the heart of a red dragon, it has such a powerful power. Another example is that a man-made man from Tianxia actually obtained the heart of the dragon-slaying hero Siegfried, and used this heart to transform into the legendary dragon species. Siegfried's old enemy, Fafnir's ability, how can it be repaired? In fact, according to the setting of the Xingyi world, the power of dragons is actually still related to blood. After all, the relationship between heart and blood is very close, and Siegfried originally obtained Fafnir's power by bathing in dragon blood. In worlds such as World of Warcraft, D&D series, etc., dragons originally only exist as a race. If we have to talk about the essence, it can only be DNA. After all, dragons can see their mothers. That's how half-dragons come to be. For Yeting today, the most reliable thing is to try the first method. After all, whether it was the mental test he had suffered or the feeling of his heartbeat before his transformation, they all hinted at the importance of his dragon blood. The second method seems a bit unreliable, because he cannot obtain dragon-slaying magic at all, not only dragon-slaying magic, but also the famous language magic in other worlds. He cannot obtain relevant information, and the fire dragon in this world is just a magical creature with low intelligence. It doesn't even have its own words, let alone dragon language magic. As for the third way, he has actually experienced it. After breaking through the temptation and trial of the spirit, he suddenly felt that his soul had become completely different. That is not only the human soul, but also the dragon's soul. The dragon not only represents the ultimate desire, but also represents the ultimate power. And in his soul, he already has the power and sublimated essence represented by the dragon soul. This change allowed him to take a step closer to mastering both magic and body. This may be the change brought to him by the ability to become infinitely stronger. The temptation to fall during the dragon transformation process has become a trial of progress for Yeting. As he constantly moves forward in the desperate situation of falling, his soul is also constantly sublimating in the direction of dragon soul. After all, the opposite of hell is heaven. It is a pity that even the dragon soul does not bring him any substantial power now. Perhaps he must make progress like the dragonborn by killing dragons and absorbing dragon souls. However, although for him now, the dragon soul is just a different buff with a low increase rate, one day he will know what the dragon soul really brings to him. Finally, he also has a way to change his genes, which theoretically allows him to become a dragon, but this is just a theory. After all, firstly, he now has insufficient understanding of genetic technology, and the current scientific level in the world is not enough to complete this research. Secondly, he feels that there must be something wrong with using pure science to study dragon genes. You know, the great scientists in World of Warcraft, the Deathwing family, are originally from the Dragon clan. They have mastered advanced magic and have many talented people under them. Under such conditions, studying dragon genes has resulted in a bunch of messy monsters. So, since it was decided to start with dragon blood, Yeting had to make a research plan. The first is the collection of materials. According to Yeting's temperament, if possible, he must collect the blood of all the dragons he can find, so Yeting plans to drive a bus during the Christmas holiday. A trip around the world, visiting all the fire dragon sanctuaries in the world, and collecting the blood of all types of fire dragons. In the world of Harry Potter, only fire dragons can be considered dragon species. In addition, there are longhorned water snakes from America and China, which are also worth studying. This kind of creature is often regarded by Muggles as another kind of dragon, such as the divine dragon of the Celestial Dynasty or the Quetzalcoatl of America. Yeting believes that they may also have the blood of dragons. At the same time, in addition to obtaining the blood of these dragons, Yeting also wanted to try by killing dragons to see if his dragon soul could absorb the souls of dragons to grow himself like a dragonborn. Definitely, he does not expect to be able to obtain dragon language magic through such behavior. In fact, the dragonborn can do this because the dragon he absorbed originally mastered that magical knowledge. According to the Harry Potter world, judging from the fire dragon's IQ, it is more practical to expect this than to hope that the fire dragon can speak. However, after experiencing the battle with the fire dragon in the Forbidden Forest, Yeting knew that with his current magic alone, it was impossible to break through the powerful magic resistance of dragons. At that time, he was able to defeat the underage fire dragon by using the shape-shifting technique caused fire dragon 1.5 to lose balance in the air, causing him to fall and hurt himself. Then he temporarily shape-shifted a sharp sword and cut off the fire dragon's neck. But shape-shifting is still magic after all. Although the magic resistance of the fire dragon is not that high against these magics that indirectly cause damage, the resistance still exists, so in order to be able to better deal with the fire dragon, and the basilisk of Hogwarts, in order to cause damage, Yeting decided to create some swords through alchemy before the Christmas vacation, the Sword of Gryffindor. Just do it, but first the material problem must be solved. Since apparition was not available at Hogwarts, he decided to sneak away to Hogsmeade over the weekend and buy some goblin silver, a precious metal similar to mithril, which in the world of Harry Potter is the most precious raw material. Gryffindor's sword is made of goblin silver. Chapter 100. Since the news spread that Colin was attacked and petrified after visiting Harry Potter, the theory that Harry Potter is the heir of Slytherin has become popular among small necromancers. Harry never tired of this. He believed that Draco Malfoy was the heir of Slytherin, but he had no proof. So he came up with an idea. He and Ron could transform into Crabbe and Goyle through Polyjuice Potion, and then wait for an opportunity to extract evidence from Malfoy. However, Polyjuice Potion is a very high-level potion. Their potions book does not mention how to make it at all. The powerful potion containing the recipe for Polyjuice Potion is placed in the restricted section of the library. Books can be borrowed there only through a note from a professor. For this reason, he had to suppress his nausea, pretend that he had become an admirer of Professor Lockhart, and deceived a note from him. Lockhart was both boastful and proud, and he was quite enthusiastic about signing for someone else. He handed the note to Harry without question. So Harry and Ron started making Polyjuice Potion. The production of Polyjuice Potion requires 2 stages. The materials in the first stage are oozing grass, 2-eared grass, lacewings, and leeches, which are all quite common magic materials. 04 However, the second stage of production requires bicorn horn and African tree snake skin. These two materials are quite rare. Only Snape has stocks in the entire Hogwarts, so they plan to steal some from Snape. Yeting did the same thing when he made the polyjuice potion last school year. They found Ron's twin brothers, George and Fred, for help. George and Fred were happy to give Harry and Ron some hard-drawing fireworks. During a potions class, Harry lit a firework and threw it into the cauldron of Malfoy's follower, Goyle. This potions lesson is about making a swelling potion. Gore's potion exploded and poured onto the entire class. Everyone screamed and screamed under the attack of splashing potion. Malfoy was doused in the face and his nose swelled up like a balloon. Goyle stumbled around with his hands over his eyes swollen as big as lunch plates. In the chaos, no one noticed that Harry and Ron secretly left the classroom. They went to Snape's medicine storage room and successfully stole the medicine they wanted. A week later, a notice about the opening of the fighting club suddenly appeared on the bulletin board in the foyer. Most of the young necromancers are full of interest in the opening of the duel club. In fact, necromancer duel is a special culture in the necromancer world, which is somewhat similar to medieval knight duels, duels between generals on the battlefield, or duels between nobles. Duels between necromancers are generally formal contests between two or more people, and only magic can be used. Both parties in the duel must first bow to each other to show respect, and then assume a common dueling posture. After counting 3 times, both sides will try to disarm, stun, injure, defeat or kill the other party, forcing the other party to submit and win. Dueling also exists as a sport. In addition to actual combat, it can be presented in the form of friendly competitions. Even today, there are various dueling competitions in the necromancer world. Legend has it that Professor Flitwick is a dueling competition champion, and currently the most famous dueling competition in the world is the International Necromancer Duel Competition held by various countries. Necromancers usually talk about some legendary necromancer duels. The most typical one is the epic duel between Dumbledore and Grindelwald in 1945. Even the various myths and legends of the necromancer world are filled with various duels between necromancers. The most typical one is the duel between Merlin and the witch Mrs. Mim. In this duel, Merlin creatively turned into a virus and won. Hermione and Zhongqiu also expressed their intention to join this dueling club. They have experienced several weeks of combat magic training with Yeting, and they can't wait to see their own strength. In the room of requirement, in addition to sparring with Yeting, they also practice with each other. Yeting's level they are much higher than them, and their levels are relatively similar. So all this time, they didn't know what level their ability had reached. Yeting himself didn't want to join in the fun. In his opinion, the so-called duel club was just noobs pecking each other. Helplessly, Hermione and Zhongqiu found him respectively. I hope to join the duel club with him. Definitely, Yeting also saw what they were thinking. They just wanted to show the results of their training in front of him, the teacher. It was difficult for Yeting to refuse the invitation from the 2 students, so he had to participate in this novice pecking match. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the long dining table in the auditorium disappeared, and a gilded stage appeared along one wall, illuminated by hundreds of candles floating in the sky. The ceiling became as dark as velvet again, and almost all the students from the school were here, crowded together, everyone holding their own wands, their faces full of excitement. I wonder who will teach us, Hermione said as they squeezed into the chattering crowd. Someone told me that Flitwick was a dueling champion when he was young. Maybe he will teach us. In fact, the truth will disappoint you. Yeting smiled faintly, and as soon as he finished speaking, he saw Gilderoy Lockhart walking onto the stage, wearing a purple robe, dazzling, and the 673 people around him were not others, none other than Snape, were still wearing his usual black clothes. Lockhart waved everyone for silence, then shouted, "Come around, come around. Can everyone see me? Can everyone hear me? Great. That's right. Professor Dumbledore allowed me to open this small dueling club to fully train everyone in case you need to defend yourself one day. You can protect yourself in the same way that I have used countless times. For more information on this aspect, please see my published works. Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape," Lockhart said, grinning broadly. He told me that he himself knew a thing or two about dueling, and he generously agreed to help me give a small demonstration before class. I said, "I don't want you little guys to worry that after I finish the demonstration with him, I will still potions master will return it to you intact, Don't be afraid. Yeting looked at the confident Lockhart and couldn't help but curl his lips. Who is Snape? He was once a Death Eater, and he was definitely a master of black magic. He invented the Blade Curse and the Upside Down Curse when he was a student, and he could also compete with the Master of the Order of the Phoenix. Harry's the father, James Potter, and Harry's godfather, Sirius Black, fought back and forth. With a spear as sharp as Lockhart's, he dared to challenge Snape. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.